Good evening, all. Today's Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, and it's 6 p.m. on the dot. We're at the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, and it looks like we're going to have the call to order. Here.
Elaine Gallagher, Vice Chair.
Here.
Michael Levico.
Here.
Josh Simpson.
Here.
Jesse Solomon.
Present.
Carrie.
Here.
And
Here.
Complete commission, and it's a full commission now because I think, Katie, I might be stealing your thunder, but Josh has just joined us. Very good to have you on our committee. We're looking forward to your input, to your ability to make motions, and the opportunity that you bring in enlightening us on aspects that we want to think of. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'll do my best.
Notice regarding adjournment. The Historic Preservation Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which not have been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or special meeting date as determined by the commission members. Notice regarding public comments. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman and in speaking avoid disrespect to the commission, staff, or other members of the meeting. State your name and address when speaking for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And can I get a motion for the adoption of the agenda as written?
I motion we adopt the agenda as written.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Adoption of minutes are passed. Adoption of agenda. Adoption of minutes from July 7th, 2021. I need a motion for that, please.
I'll motion to adopt the minutes.
Second.
Have a second. Are there any comments or discussion on the minutes?
I think just because he wasn't present at that meeting, the second has to come from someone else.
I think that's an excellent point. Thank you for watching us.
I'll second.
Great.
I was present, I just wasn't.
But no, that's very true. I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's see, we do have a second, so we're looking at all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? The adoption of minutes as written. Public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone that's registered for public comments that is not on the agenda? Okay. Do we have any old business to discuss? No old business? So therefore, it looks like we're into our new business. And Katie, you have the floor, and take it away, Katie.
Good evening, commissioners.
Aye.
Full commission, and yes, you did steal my thunder by saying we have a full commission. However, it's not exactly my thunder, it is Josh's because he is here as a commissioner. Can you not hear me?
I can,
How
but
about now? Better?
yeah.
All right, I will talk louder, I promise. I can be loud. Tonight, the first application that we have before us is for 16 Robertson Street. You all are the applicant for 16 Robertson, right? Perfect. So we do have the applicant here tonight, Ms. Beard and Mr. Beard. Perfect. Perfect.
Hello.
So we have 3 people here on behalf of 16 Robertson Street.
Do we want them to sit at a table or no?
We can have them. Do you want to switch places, or do you want to? You can come take my spot. I'll take my thunder. Yep, that's going to happen. We're going to have.
If you can move forward, please.
That way, if there are any comments, because you are going to be welcome to speak on behalf of the project, you'll have a microphone.
And that way you have the microphone and you can speak.
It doesn't pick up very well in this room. Even though it sounds like we can hear you, it's not very, very heard. So we will spread out there.
Thank you, Kevin.
You all kind of can shuffle between the two. Okay, one is free. That works. So this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness to allow the construction of a two-story single-family building of approximately 2,369 square feet and a carriage house of approximately 624 square feet to be located at 16 Robertson, which is in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it is zoned Neighborhood General HD. So you can see the location map here. This is Wharf Street and Bridge Street. So Oyster Factory Park is at the very bottom of the screen right on this gray line. And then this is the small turnoff onto Robertson Street from Wharf, and it goes up and ties into May River Road just above the blue line on the screen here. So it is this parcel right here. You can see on the zoning map, it is in that bright orange, which is the Neighborhood General, and it's surrounded on all four sides by the same. The existing conditions, I've made the existing condition by putting the sign in the ground there, but this is the parcel that we are speaking of tonight. So there are not very many trees on this site, but it is a vacant parcel. And then this is the Google Earth view of it. It's a little bit older photo, but you could see the house next to it a little bit closer here. So the parcel we're looking at is approximately, this is a terrible angle, but here. It runs right along the driveway line to halfway through between this house and the driveway. This is the survey, which was provided as part of the application. Oops, and I zoomed in for you just so that it was a little bit bigger because the screen is not the same shape as the page. And the proposed site plan, which I have rotated and zoomed in so that you could see it a little bit closer. As you turn from Wharf Street onto Robertson, this is the orientation that the parcel would be in. So you would have the edge of Robertson over here, and this is the back of the lot. This is the first floor plan for the primary structure. So again, you have Robertson on the left-hand side of the screen. The carriage house would be towards the back corner here, and then I have chopped and pasted, as I usually do, all of the plans together to make it so that it is as visible as possible on the screens before you tonight. The first floor area as well as that second floor area. And then this is the second floor plan. So you can see this has got the porch that runs the full length here, and the bedrooms, basically, is most of what's upstairs, bedrooms and bathrooms. And then the roof plan, so you can see the porch roof over here with the primary gable running along the parcel. The garage, first floor plan, it is a functional garage, so it does have space for a vehicle. And then it has a guest suite and bathroom on the second floor, so it's occupiable space on the second floor here with the roof plan to the right. If I am going too fast or you need to see something for longer, I will flip back towards them as I go through the comments, but I like to make sure that I speed through them. It's kind of cruel to have thrown Josh right in the middle of things and go this speed, but we can go back to anything that we need to see here. This is the front elevation, so this is the side that would be facing Robertson. If you're standing on the street, this is what you will see. You can see it's got the side porch. There's a chimney on the left-hand side. We've got windows on the front elevation here. The right side, this is if you were standing in the driveway, or the yellow house that was visible just on the right side of the screen. This is the elevation that faces that. So you have the side porch as well as the windows here on the back. The carriage house would be on this side of the parcel, here at the rear just off the screen. This is the right elevation, so the front of the structure would be on the right-hand side this time. With your chimney, there's a small bump out up here to make space for, I believe it's a bathroom behind that, and then the side stoop along with the rest of the side elevation. There is the carriage house that would be back here in this image, but further from this side than the other side. And then this is the rear elevation. So if you're standing all the way at the back of the lot looking forward, the yellow house would be on this side here, the vacant parcel on the right-hand side next to the chimney, and the carriage house would be in the space approximately here, partially obscuring your view of this back stoop and the porch here. So it would be here. These are the elevations for the carriage house. So again, this is what lines up with the stoop on the rear. The garage door would be facing towards the street. The East elevation would be the side that is facing the existing yellow house. The west elevation is the side that is facing the empty parcel. And then the north elevation is the side that faces the rear of this lot. I've included for you the garage sections, as well as some sections through the house, should we need those for reference, as well as wall sections, which I believe these are mostly, yeah, there's a wall section and a porch section. More wall sections, oops, if I can go, oh, sorry, flipping too fast. And then here are some renderings so that you have a better idea of how this will look, not on your 2D print, but 3D. So this is standing on Robertson near the corner looking towards Wharf Street and into the lot. So Wharf Street is over here. This is standing closer to Wharf Street looking in, so that yellow house would be right here. This is the left rear, so this would be standing on the vacant parcel looking towards Robertson, or yes, I'm sorry, towards Robertson and Wharf, kind of in the back, so the yellow house is now over here. Those are the three. And then this is the landscape plan. So you, again, just so you've got your orientation, the driveway runs along the bottom of this with Robertson at the left. Your vacant parcel is to the top with the yellow house to the bottom of the page, and the carriage house is here, partially obscured by the house so that you would never see the full front elevation of it, which is fairly standard. To make it easier to read and for Jesse's viewing pleasure, I have zoomed in on your landscape plan for you, as well as the planting schedule. Details that were additional to the landscape plan. Are the elevations and site plans and landscape plan. So as the HPC considers a certificate of appropriateness application, you are to consider the 8 review criteria that are set forth in section 318.3 of our Unified Development Ordinance. You have the authorization to approve with conditions, or deny the applications as submitted by the applicant. In addition to that, there is the option to table the application if it is requested by the applicant, so further information can be produced. Town staff has found that there are a handful of items that, if met, could mean this application is in compliance with the standards in section 318.3. However, there are a handful of items that are going to alter the footprint of the building possibly, or at least the design enough to have staff request that this application does come back before the HPC once they've addressed them, in order to have a determination be made on those items. So if it is okay with the chairman, I'm going to go through these items. Then we have the applicant who can speak on behalf of this, and any questions that you all may have, we are both here to speak on the application.
I think it would be good if we just went through all the items and then possibly back up a little bit after that, because it looks like there's quite a few. That way we get a full understanding of the project and
Yes, sir.
things that have been pointed out. So if we could do that, Katie, would that be all right?
That is just fine by me. So the first item is that the mass of the structure as it's currently configured does not allow for the other site requirements to be met. The mass of the structure would need to be reduced or the site reconfigured in order to allow for those site elements to meet the setbacks for the building. So that can be seen, and I'm going to escape because I found it's easier here. The way that our ordinance, our Unified Development Ordinance is written is that it's a form-based code. This allows for buildings to be constructed on sites within the space that is left once the site requirements are met. So that includes parking, street trees, canopy coverage, and then what is left of that site as long as you can get drainage to work and things like that, can be built on. So a non-form-based code would do something like a floor area ratio, which would say if your lot is this size, then this specific amount of square feet can fit. With a form-based code, the form is based on what is left over from, it's subtractive rather than additive, I guess is the best way to phrase that. The areas that are of concern are the stair here, which extends past the setback, which is allowable. However, it can be no closer than 3 feet to the property line. In this case, it is about 1.2 feet from the property line. However, it only has 2 steps, and with a 3-foot finished floor height, while it may change a little bit as it goes towards the rear of the lot, 2 steps is not going to be able to meet that requirement, so it'll need to be edited just a little bit there. And then...
Interrupt, because I'm going to ask Elaine, she's the code expert. What's the typical, if you had a 30-inch height, what would the 32-inch, what would the typical stair to meet code be at?
Well, it's generally, for an outside stair, somewhere between, well, it's going to be 10 inches for your run. Okay. So at a minimum, you've probably got, you put me on the spot, I have to do math. What, 4 or 5 stairs out. But what's missing here is the landing, because you're not allowed to put, you can't step down right from the door. You have to have a landing and then the stairs. So I totally see what Katie's talking about. They turn it sideways, and I don't, that's something they need to do, but it doesn't, but that's not the way it's shown.
Turn it sideways.
From the stairs, send
Okay.
the stairs the other direction. Yeah, it looks like they have room for a landing, and then they have to take
Oh,
the stairs
correct.
to
That is
to
a
the north.
possibility.
Yeah.
Step towards the back.
Step this direction. Perhaps that could work. This one will also need a landing before it goes into it there. The rise height on a standard stair is no greater than 7 3/4 inch. So 7 3/4 divided by 36.
Math.
I can't do the math off the top of my head, but
Who's math? Come on.
the second item I have here is that a large canopy street tree would need to be placed on the site where it would be retained should the 10-foot shared access be utilized in the future. So the landscape plan here. So currently they do have a live oak that is proposed at the corner here, which would count as a street tree. However, because this right here is a shared access, and you can see it. Whoops. The 10-foot shared access is 5 feet on either side of this property line. If this access were to be utilized, the street tree would be required to be removed. So it would just need to move inside of that setback line in order to be able to be utilized here. The third item is that the landscape plan, all of the canopy coverage that is being proposed is within, with the exception, I apologize, of the palmetto here, the sable palm at the front of the lot, is located within this. So again, if this access were to be utilized in the future, the canopy for the 75% canopy coverage that's required for lots within the historic district, the only part that would be retained would be this section here. The fourth item is that a determination on the building type must be made. So the building type proposed in this application is a side yard house. A side yard house is a single family residence. Probably the best way to look at it is here. These renderings are very helpful, y'all. So a side yard house is a single family structure, detached single family residence between 1,200 and 2,800 square feet with a maximum footprint of 1,200 square feet. They are 2 to 2.5 stories in height, positioned with the narrow side facing the street, and they have a full-length side porch. They tend to be positioned with the non-porch side close to the adjacent side property line, creating a side yard onto which the porch faces. They are typically 24 to 35 feet wide, including the side porch. This structure does meet the height, square footage, and positioning requirements for the side yard house. The item that is of question is the depth of the porch here. So it is required to have a full-length side porch by the characteristic definition of the side yard house. This structure has the side porch. It runs approximately 40% of the first floor with these two infilled panels here, and then the portion behind the porch, which is part of the main mass of the structure. And on the second floor, it runs approximately 60% of the full length of the house, where it includes those two open bays up there. So the top floor has the fully opened porch that runs approximately 2/3 of the building, with just under half of the building on the first floor included in that side porch.
Could I have some clarification in my mind? So because it's enclosed on the bottom like that, it puts this house into a different.
It depends on your interpretation of it, because the way they detailed it, they made it look as if it were an existing Charleston house, that stride house that had, that was infilled. It was done, and you can find examples of this all over the place. So where they needed some extra room, they took advantage of that porch space to do it. And it reads as a longer porch. It reads as the 60% length.
The threshold that it must meet.
The Unified Development Ordinance notes that it needs to have a full-length side porch. It doesn't give a specific depth of what that is.
Does that go all the way to the back, technically?
A full facade porch would, if you were to do a resource survey of some kind, a full facade porch would run from one corner to the other corner. That being said, there are examples where there is a full-length porch that doesn't include the entirety of the structure. So for example, you can see at the front here where there is a step back where that porch starts, so it wouldn't start forward of the principal facade of the building, but it would run still the most of it. The question here is whether or not this would constitute, in your opinion, as a side yard house, that it meets those characteristics that are in that ordinance, or at least the intent behind the characteristics that define this structure.
So us as a commission have to determine what interpretation per all the commissioners are.
Staff is requesting that the HPC make a determination on whether or not this design meets the intent of the side yard house building type, which is found in that section 315.8J. In my staff report, it is page 8 at the bottom, where it lays that language out there. So the building type defines the side yard house as a detached single-family residence, which it is, between 1,200 and 2,800 square feet, which it is, a maximum footprint of 1,200 square feet, which it has, or it is under 1,200 square feet. They are 2 to 2.5 stories in height. This structure is 2 stories in height. It's positioned with a narrow side facing the street and has a full-length side porch. So it is positioned with the narrow side facing the street. It's not sitting with the street in front of this elevation here. And it is positioned closer to the non-porch side. So on the site plan, you can see here that it is positioned closer to the property line where there is no porch. So the further distance is to this one here. And then the area where there is question is the interpretation of whether or not this design meets the intent of a full-length side porch.
Katie, backing up, did I miss something? But number 2, we talked about the landscaping, the percentage of canopy coverage. Cover that in full? Did everyone understand that? Here are
Yeah, I understood that. I don't want to go way off topic, but I feel like in our submittal packet, you had a specific comment, or like the one that was online where you were noting that some of these canopy coverages were a lot larger than the trees were.
Yes.
And I did agree with those comments.
Do you agree with the fact that they are as stated in the drawings or are as stated by Katie?
Some of them as stated by Katie, but I just wasn't seeing this in this packet. But
It is in the body of it for sure. I'm double checking my.
You have the landscape, you had a drawing in here,
and it, I mean, ultimately,
all
what
the
it
trees.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it gets back almost to number one, which we can discuss after all of these comments, which is that there's really not enough space left over on this lot after the footprints are placed to meet that requirement of canopy coverage.
I felt that we kind of,
Yeah, and some of the, I think, I don't know right off the cuff, I mean, I do agree, it was basically like the Little Gem Magnolia on the right side is shown with a really large canopy.
Katie, can you show the landscape plan? You have it.
I can.
I remember seeing it somewhere.
Right there on the side there.
Sorry, but
No, that's
So page 9 of the staff report, the landscape plan includes the installation of 4 trees to create the canopy coverage. The spread of the sable palm is shown to be just over 30 feet in diameter. The typical size for a sable palm is going to be closer to 15 to 25, and that's it is typically closer to the 15 than the 25 of that. There's a Little Gem Magnolia, which is shown as a 30-foot diameter. The typical size for a Little Gem Magnolia, which is the smallest of any commercial installed magnolia tree, is going to only be about 10 feet in diameter, and that's after 20 years of growth, which is full-sized tree. It doesn't get much larger than that with the Little Gem. There's the Shadows female Yaupon holly, which is shown at a 40-foot diameter, and that is typically less than 20. So the Yaupon is, I never say that word right for the record, but Yaupon is shown back here. This is the,
It's reversed.
I'm
but
sorry.
It's same thing, yeah.
this is the magnolia, the Yaupon, the live oak, which the live oak is shown at about a 60-foot, which is, yes, 60-foot, which is correct. And then the sable palm is here. So the diameter across the proposed canopy coverage is larger than what
he's a
the,
landscape guy, and that's what he
Yeah, I
does
was
for a
just saying,
profession.
sorry, thanks for pointing that out. I was just saying I do agree with staff's comments. It's tough sometimes to say what a true, canopy coverage is, but I do completely agree with those comments. I think these are shown a little bit larger than they would be, is all.
Thank you. Sorry to mess the rhythm up, but I just.
nope, that's okay. It is in the bulk
Yeah,
of the staff
sorry.
report. My phrasing on the final page is not as neat as it could have been, so I apologize for that. So the item 3 on the staff recommendations is that the landscape plan be revised to show updated canopy calculations and placement where the use of the 10-foot shared access would not impact the site's canopy coverage. So included in that, there is a possibility of using a different species of tree that would be able to meet some of these. So again, there are many, many varieties of trees that could be used, but perhaps a live oak, which does have that large canopy towards the rear of the property, may take up some of the canopy that's lost by reducing the size of the canopies that are shown on this plan that are closer to they're smaller spread trees than
Thank you.
typical.
We're on to number 4, is that correct? Yeah. Sorry to mess your rhythm up there, Katie.
4 is the building type determination, which is the discussion on the
We
porch,
did
which
that? Very good.
we were discussing. So
we're done.
I can move past that for a moment if you'd like, and we can come back to it, or you can continue the discussion as you were.
Why don't you keep reading the comments?
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's
okay.
good. I know that we're kind of,
The fifth item is that if the HPC determines that the building type does not meet the characteristics of a side yard house, it would need to be reviewed as an additional building type, which has a side yard setback of no less than 10 feet. So the decision of 4 does impact item 5. If it is determined that it does meet the intent of the side yard house, then this item is no longer applicable. Item 6 is that the stairs on the side must be revised to be no closer than 3 feet to the property line and 5 feet from the property line to be outside of that 10-foot shared access. Number 7 relates to that as well. International Residential Code Section 311.3 notes that exterior doors must have landings in the direction of travel that are no less than the width of the door, so in this case 3 feet. And it would need to be added to that in order to meet the dimensional requirements for access, and that's going to be a building code thing. But because in this case, the building code comment will impact how the site is laid out with the spacing of the site, it needs to be addressed at this time. Number 8 is that per the applications manual, a Town of Bluffton encroachment permit must be obtained for work beyond the front property line, specifically the sidewalk. There is on the site plan shown a set of stairs here. So on the front elevation, you can see the profile of it. Where'd my mouse go? Stairs here at the front that step down. They're landscape stairs, big, long, pretty stairs. However, they encroach past the front property line. So, oops. They are shown here. And you can see that that step down goes beyond that. The stairs, which are a portion of the uninhabitable appurtenances that attach to the structure, can be no closer than 3 feet to the property line. However, if a sidewalk is proposed to go beyond that front property line, which is something that we do see an encroachment permit would be required for the work that extends past the perimeter of their property line. But on the street?
Yeah.
There is not.
Steps meet up to the property line, but not the road or the sidewalk.
The steps go to the edge of pavement of the road, which extends past the property line, which is here.
Oh, so if they were to put a sidewalk, or if the town put a sidewalk, it would have to encroach on the stairs or the landing.
Yes,
Not
yes,
encroach,
yes is the answer.
It would have to
Yes.
go through it, okay.
Sorry.
At a minimum, but
Yeah.
usually they even set the sidewalk back farther.
Yeah, okay.
The next item is 9. So the porch height must be raised to be no less than 30 inches from adjacent grade. Number 10 is that the screen porch detail must be revised to show the architectural detailing, which would be the railings, pickets, et cetera, on the outside of the screen. This may just be the way the layers were turned on the set of plans you received. However, it is called out. There are no pickets being shown on the exterior of the screen here. Because this is a second floor balcony, it is above 30 inches from grade, so it's going to be required to have guardrails and the railings that go along with it. And so it will need to be shown on here as outside of the screen rather than inside the screen if that is the intent here. Number 11 is that a handrail is required per section 311.7.8 of the International Residential Code, so that railing must be shown along with the detail for the architectural portion of it. That handrail that they're talking about is on the front stair. It runs along the side of the stairs, and it's for building code requirement. That's where that lives. The 12th item is that the finished floor height must be raised to no lower than 3 feet above average adjacent sidewalk grade. As we've seen several times, there's not always an adjacent sidewalk. However, the adjacent sidewalk grade is the adjacent grade that runs along basically the street area there. So that is the detail there. Oops. See here, it's labeled on here from grade 2, first floor is labeled at 2.6. The next item is the service yard. A service yard location and configuration for the primary structure must be provided for review. On the site plan, it does show that there is a service yard that's attached to the carriage house. It is possible that some of the equipment for the primary structure would be located in this area here. However, not all of the items would be in that location, so we'd need to see where that is proposed in relation to the primary structure. The 14th item is that the stucco finish for the foundation wall needs to be provided on here.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
What type of HVAC system are you planning on using? Traditional. If you had a geothermal system, you would be able to eliminate your outside air handler.
There's actually a service yard that goes under the.
For the compressors? Gotcha.
Under the stairs.
On the primary or the carriage house
Under
structure.
the carriage house.
Oh,
They're only about 5 feet from the carriage house to the main house. So the architect has explained that there's a yard under the stairs and then to the back of the carriage house as well, and it should be able to connect. We're trying, and he said if we needed to put a meter on the house, that we could, do that and cover if that was necessary. But there are 2 separate service yards planned out for the house that do show on the plans.
There is service yard area shown under the stair and at the rear here.
I see that.
It's something that we don't typically see for the HVAC piping to go that distance. However, it, again, like I said, it is possible that that is what is being proposed.
The lines could be buried, and that could certainly work. So.
Conduit there. It's a very short distance, so.
It looks like it's about from the corner of from this corner here, which would be the top of the landing, which is not the only space that it can be, but that's where I took my measurement from because it's a stationary point for me, to the back wall of the primary structure is about 17 feet.
So I think that probably suffices the service yard concern.
It is likely,
altogether, so.
Correct. The guys. The 14th item is the stucco finish. It's shown as being stucco. We require, our Unified Development Ordinance specifies that it's mixed shell size only, so I just need that to be included in it, which is very common to see because it is something that is typical to our Unified Development Ordinance and not many other standard descriptions. The column material listed on the application is shown as composite. It's shown as wood on the elevation, so the application just needs to be updated to reflect the same as the elevations. The 16th is that the railing detail must be provided for review and the railings shown on the elevations where required. This is the screen detail is portion of that, but if the porch height exceeds 30 inches from grade when measured 3 feet from the edge of travel, the building code requires that. It is possible that there will not be railings that are required along the porch, but it would just be down the stair side there. Then they may not be required at that place, but they would need to show for the screen porch still. The 17th item is that the primary entrance must be relocated to be on the wall facing the street. So our Unified Development Ordinance notes that the primary entrance to all buildings shall be located on an exterior wall facing the frontage street. In this case, that would be this wall here. It's currently shown on the side that is facing the drive instead. 18th is that the typical window detail showing the Muntin pattern or the Muntin configuration must be provided for review. There's information about that in the body of the report. The 19th is that a gutter profile, if they're proposing gutters, will need to be provided to ensure that it is rectangular, square, or half round in profile, and where those locations are shown on the plans. The plans do not show the use of a gutter, and so it is likely that there is not going to be one. However, the application notes that it is TBD, so if it is something that is going to be used, it will need to be shown on the elevations and a profile provided. The roof material is shown on the elevations and the the wall section as two separate here, and so that just needs to be updated. I'm sure it is just again, a detail that is standard, so it just would need to be updated quickly. Something we see a lot in my wall sections. So it's just shown up in this area. There's the metal. This one, I believe, is the one that has, am I crazy? Well, guys, I might be insane. So there's that. They said metal on there, which it may be that this one shows that it's asphalt somewhere. So this could be a typo in my place, so I apologize if that is the case. Or maybe the carriage house.
The architect said that you might be seeing like the membrane under the second floor, and that's why it looked different. But it is the roofing is the same throughout.
Okay, perfect.
And that's seam metal roof.
There's standing seam, yeah. We will move past that. Again, I apologize if that's the case, so we'll just double check that it shouldn't be an issue if it is exactly where it says it is, which it looks like it is. 21 is just a corner detail must be provided for review. 22 is the water table must be revised to be a 5/4 stock with the drip board and the skirt board. At minimum, our ordinance changed from a 2x material just recently, 6 to 8 months ago, to allow 5/4 material to be used for that skirt board if it is proposed. However, this is showing a 1x skirt board on that water table, which is here, so it just needs to be updated there. Which I can't read it on this screen, but it should be visible on the plans that were printed. The 23rd here is that the traditional construction patterns and section 515.6 and 5A and M of the Unified Development Ordinance, the application notes the use of composite shutters. This is something that we have discussed a few times. The Unified Development Ordinance, when we updated it to allow for the 5/4 material water table, at the same time, there was a note that said, except in the case of contributing structures, the UDO administrator may approve the use of wood composite material for shutters, provided that the UDO administrator determines that the shutters will be consistent with the character of the historic district and the materials used are of equal or better quality than traditional building materials. In addition to that, the reference document we use for anything that is not specifically called out in the Unified Development Ordinance is that traditional constructions pattern. It's that brown and yellow book that notes that as an additional reference for architectural standards, it encourages the use of the arm's length rule, which states that substitute materials must be indistinguishable from the original at arm's length or less, and their performance must exceed that of the original if they are going to be used below the second floor. So the HPC would need to make a determination on the appropriateness of the use of a composite shutter. If this is the case, a material sample or additional information on that composite shutter would need to be provided in order to ensure that at arm's length it would meet that standard. At this time, we have not yet approved a composite shutter. That being said, the ability to even allow for it was only added to this document within the last 12 months. I think it's closer to 8 months. So there is some room for
The problem being the
Interpretation there.
vagueness of the word composite. It could be a composite of anything.
I can say that with familiarity with this architect and with who he specified here as New Horizon, it is a top-of-the-line composite shutter with a perimeter stainless steel powder coated finish.
What materials constitute the composite?
I can't tell you exactly if it is a fiberglass but it is not an AZAC or call it a PVC material. It is an extremely durable product.
It doesn't look like plastic.
It looks like a nice painted wood shutter.
If they want to give us a cut sheet or something, maybe that'd be good, or more descriptors.
Yes,
But I could-
additional information on it town staff would need additional information in order to feel comfortable with that. Not for doubt in the architect who draws the plans. However, as we know that sometimes plans change as we build, and we just need to make sure that there's something there that holds the composite shutter to the standard that is intended at time of application here. So
Set the standard, the precedent for it.
Yeah, because we really haven't approved any as of yet.
Right, but we were
we're still-
specific when we changed it to a wood composite, so that it wasn't a
For a wood
plastic
composite, not-
composite,
you're right.
right?
So we're still in discovery on that. Let's call
Yeah.
it.
And then the last item is that a shutter dog detail is required as well. Shutters must be operable, so the shutter dog detail is required. That will show up likely in the detail that they provide. If it is not, if it is something separate, then they can provide that as a separate item.
All the reading of this. I have a question on the elevation or the site plan. Is there a possibility of a ghost road contained on this property too?
Yes.
I'm sorry? There is a ghost road. And so where is that in relationship to what we're showing now?
Yes, Robertson is the ghost road.
So it's on Robertson Street, which is the main street they have, but that's the ghost road?
Robertson is the ghost road.
Robertson
So-
is the ghost road?
Yes, so we're the black dotted line and where it says edge of pavement, anything to the left, Robertson, the right of way is the
From-
ghost road.
From the property line to the property line across the street is the
Yes.
ghost road.
You want to define what a ghost road is?
I would like,
A ghost road is a platted right-of-way that the records of ownership have been lost or destroyed or are less than traceable for a street. It is showing up on plats as early as, this one specifically, I don't know exactly what year this one started showing up because I don't know exactly what year it was there, but there are ghost roads throughout our Old Town District as well as the town at large that are dating back to about the Civil War. And so we are working through trying to go back and find that details to that and to maintain and to establish maintenance responsibility for those roads at this time.
Thank you.
And
Just
what
a-
is the status of the 10-foot shared access? Because that seems to matter.
I would like to speak to that. So we have been through this several times, this discussion, because, and what Katie finally, after speaking to the town attorney, emailed me, and it says that they have determined that as our survey does not show the easement, we are not required to enforce it.
But it's
And-
showing up on your,
It does show up on that, and that is because it was, and I want to get this right, there were two, the plat at 136 and 155 was prepared for Michael Hahn to subdivide another lot. And so basically what happened is, it's my understanding that there were people who were interested in buying the lot and subdividing it, but they never went through with the purchase. But when they proposed to do that, the town recorded, or the town put it somewhere in their books. But those people never took ownership of the lot, and it has never been recorded with the owners that we bought it from or the other, anything we can find for the other owners. And I've had my attorneys look into it because it makes quite a difference in our house. We wouldn't be showing you things that we thought encroached on the neighbor's shared access if we didn't believe it doesn't exist. And so, you know, Katie confirmed with the town attorney that it doesn't exist. And that is, you know, it did show up on some of the things which concerned us greatly because we would have done something different with this house and not be at this point, everything oriented the way it is, if we believed it exists. But we believe we've done our due diligence. We wouldn't want to build a house and someday someone come to us and say, well, we own, you know, we get you need to redo all this stuff or you owe us money or anything like that. So we believe that we've accurately looked into everything and the easement doesn't exist. So for some of these comments, it's my opinion that you know, some of them are, if it's determined to not exist, are irrelevant at this point.
And the easement is on the right side as we're looking at
The easement is on the left side.
On the left side,
House.
The west,
The shared access that is shown on the plat
the
here.
west side,
So
okay.
you can see it right there on their survey.
so I hope you can have your, have RLA fix that on your
Yes,
plat.
we can, and we could submit an updated, you know.
Yeah, because the more times it appears, the more
But I-
real it becomes,
know.
right?
Well, I was surprised, honestly, to get some of these comments back because I thought this was something that, we didn't see them until Tuesday evening. And these, you know, this issue was raised when we had our first meeting and we went over it and then we got confirmation that it didn't exist. So we were a little bit surprised at the number of comments that involved the easement, again, in this situation.
Yeah, but they show in your documents, so I'm sure it's.
Yeah, maybe it was
it's-
just something that got lost in the mix. I know that, and Katie has been great. She's been working with us since in January. We're on our review. And, you know, I think we took everything into account that you both proposed, and we made substantial changes to this house. So, you know, that's where we are. But bottom line is we don't believe it's there.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, the response that was sent to y'all is that given the question of the existence of the easement, the liability is shifted to the owner of Lot 16, which is y'all. We are not required to enforce an easement if it does not exist to enforce the easement, and if one does exist, the owner of the adjacent lot can bring action against the owner of Lot 16. If the applicant's survey shows the easement, the town should assume it to be in existence. If it does not, then the town should rely on the applicant's submissions. In this case, because the easement is being shown on these surveys, the town is assuming the existence of the right-of-way, or the shared easement, not the right-of-way, and has provided feedback based on that.
This is the empty lot.
It is the vacant parcel, so in the
The
future,
possibility of it being sold?
the neighboring property
Or is
could
it-
develop
is it
using that
purchased? Or
access.
Who owns the lot now?
There is a gentleman who owns it, as far as I know, after sending the certified mail copies. He lives in California. We have tried to reach out to him. I don't remember when he purchased the lot, to be honest. I didn't actually get the second part of what Katie said in our feedback. In May, she wrote me an email saying that the
Right.
town, the easement didn't exist. There was no indication that we needed to go back and update our survey or the town would follow what was submitted. I would have gladly done that to avoid this situation if that was the case. I didn't know that the town would automatically assume that.
Well, it's only based on what you submitted.
Right, but we were also never provided the feedback to go back and change the survey based on the comment or the email that I received, and I would have gladly done that to update the town if that was what I was told.
Well, the easement is, the stairs are actually encroaching on the
Well,
easement.
it's not an easement.
Or the possibility of, so how far do the stairs go into that area?
They extend to 1.2 feet from the property line.
Property line is,
5 feet of easement, or of shared access that is labeled on the survey.
But if we take the easement away, we still cannot encroach that property line by any more than 3 feet, correct?
Correct.
So irregardless, it's over the 3-foot setback.
We're happy to make adjustments in that case. It's just,
Yeah, because you're showing the house at a incorrect elevation too. Because you have to have it, so the elevation has to be raised in order for the,
I can go through the points in her comments.
I'm just kind of curious because I'm looking at this one and I see numerous staff recommendations.
A lot of them related to code, so a lot of it isn't even within our realm, they just don't meet code. So I'm not sure how to review something that doesn't meet code, other than to just say it doesn't meet code.
Well, it's
and
not
we-
meeting code, and
we
it's,
don't
and
have-
there's a lot of items that it seems like it will, I think the staff also said, will substantially alter the design of the primary structure if they were to be changed to meet code. And that's kind of my, maybe I'm right or wrong, I guess I'm looking for the discussion
with
from
you.
the rest of the group.
I think what I am hearing, and maybe I'm incorrect, is that they need to substantially change the landscape, plan, and they need to substantially, make some alterations to the physical plan. So for us to approve it, we're approving something theoretically that doesn't exist at this moment. And then we're gonna add in the fact that there's that shared easement, that we have a document that says it's here, that we're voting on based on these documents that we provided, and you're insisting that it isn't. And I think in your best interest, it would be, it would be to get a final determination on that in writing that they could present to our board, so we're not approving something on hearsay or, you know, putting
Just-
someone in
yeah,
a
to
position
just
that.
Take it out of the submittal, yeah.
Yes,
Right.
and because at this point, if we were to ignore it, then we're not doing our job, and if we were to enforce it, and it wasn't there, then you're not getting sort of the bang for your buck. So I think there's so many variables right now that I would think that we're almost better off asking them to make some changes and then come back before us, and that's I guess my suggestion at this time, based on the amount of structure and the landscape.
Can I,
Also the front door,
Yeah, I would,
as far as
we
I'm
could give them
sitting
some
here-
feedback on that.
Yeah, as far as me sitting here, I don't remember us approving anything where the front door wasn't at the front of the street. So it's very unusual to see no front door, and things like that are gonna change and alter the whole construction.
Did you have a front door on your porch earlier, like they have in Charleston? Because they always put a front door to the porch, so that's how that's addressed historically.
We had discussed it at one point, but, I mean, it's something we could definitely do. You know, I guess, as a general point, this lot is 40 by 100 feet. You're not even allowed to have a lot that small anymore, okay? So if we can't figure out a way to make this a side porch house with, you know, incorporating any suggestions that you guys have and things like that, it makes this lot almost unbuildable in certain ways. And so we're trying to do everything we can to make this, you know, a viable house and option, and while still, you know, making this house, we're putting extremely nice materials into it. You know, it's not inexpensive or anything like that. We feel like it will bring great value to the neighborhood and all these things. And so I just hope that you think about how restricted we are in what we're doing. I mean, if we could go out there and build anything, trust me, we wouldn't make some of these decisions that we're making. But, you know, we are doing it working with what we have.
Yeah, I think we even commented when we saw you before that
Yeah.
you squeezed a lot of space into this little site, and that was really creative.
Mr.
But we're really restricted to setbacks and all this stuff, and that's all we can look at. And
I'm sorry.
In other words, we're looking at precedents that were set and then setting precedent. I use this a lot in this dias, but we don't want to set a new precedent. And some things here that are trying to set a new precedent that I understand you're trying to build a wonderful place, but then once that precedent is set, now you open the door for others to come in and say, well, you did it here. So we can't just open up that door and say, let it happen. So we need to say, we're restricted by all the codes and all the UDO, and that's what this body is doing, is trying to utilize the rules that have been set for us to agree for construction. So that's,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
please.
So, I guess trying to summarize some of the items that you're referring to, it seems as though that if the survey were to be updated and that access, the vehicular access that's on the side, or the 10-foot access, was no longer shown on that survey, and correctly no longer shown on that survey, from a landscape standpoint, all the landscaping, could be adjusted. The size of the trees could be adjusted, and their location would be appropriate at that point, because there's no longer a conflict with the access. I think one of the big things is that determination. You guys had talked about it, not necessarily, from a vote standpoint. It seems as though more of a conversation, and if you guys agree with that side yard building type, then, that addresses a lot of the questions about the side setbacks. And then the front door, if the applicant is kind of referring to potentially having that front door, the Charleston size or style, that would then meet that requirement for the front door that you're looking for. I think most of the other items are simpler items that could easily be addressed, but those are some of the larger items that could potentially be taken care of, and then would meet a lot of those items that you have concern with.
And I guess if they're going to have it revised and brought back, we need to let them know now if we think this is a side yard house. Otherwise, there's big changes where they have to add more porch. So we can at least give suggestions that way.
So that's where it comes to, where's the front door? And a traditional front porch for a Charleston side house has one on the porch. It's not, it just leads onto the porch.
That's not a big deal to put a door in there.
Right. And then
Not
to
necessarily.
address the length of the porch itself, I do
I don't mind
personally
that
read,
offset.
I read the whole porch as the whole porch, including what's enclosed on the first floor, because it reads as a house that's evolved. I actually do see this as a Charleston side house. It would be
I agree too.
better, not better, it would more closely meet the exacting requirements of the form-based code if the back looked a little bit like an extension. Maybe the roof pitch changes or something, I don't know. But I actually, personally, I'm fine with it just the way it is, and I do see it as a Charleston side porch.
I do too.
When you add the addition of the front door, I do too.
So this body is a discussion for that? I don't know if,
Yeah, no,
I'm kind of, maybe you could help me on, I don't know if we're gonna put a motion on this or how, because there's so many items, it seems like it does need to be brought back to this body.
Sure. It sounds as though that, yes, there are a lot of comments. There's a lot of comments that the applicant could easily address. The biggest item was the building type, which is, it seems as though everyone is in agreement as to the side yard. So that
Could I get
gives,
what could we call it, just kind of a vote on that with the body so that we all, I mean.
It has to be in the motion, I
Not,
believe.
not a
motion
vote,
or
please.
what?
yeah.
How would,
No, that would have to be part of that overall motion. I believe that, the charge to the applicant right now is that they can move forward with that side yard house. Addressing the 10-foot access along the side is that with an updated survey, having that information removed then removes a lot of the other issues. However, there's still the steps that are encroaching close to, the property line, so they would have to address that component of it.
I don't know
in
that
their
that can,
plans.
I don't know that you can address that. Given the requirement of a 36-inch landing there, and only having 5 feet to work with, the math just doesn't work. So,
Well, the idea would be just to eliminate
Exactly. Put a window there.
Talked about doing.
Very easy to eliminate the door because it's
Or
really.
just go to a smaller door, which would make your porch smaller.
I see that landing and the fact that your site survey calls for a 10-foot shared access. Those are the two largest items for you to resolve. Take care of that.
Care of that, yep.
Yes.
And is there, Katie, did I read in there that it is also a foot too close to the back property line?
The
where did I
the original submittal was, so the conceptual, that was in the HPRC comments. That has been updated and it is meeting the rear setback now. So the items that staff would like you all to provide direction on is, one, the determination on the side yard house being an appropriate design, because if it is not, then they would need to update their setbacks. It sounds to me as though there is an agreement, but I want that to come from you all, that it does meet that, which means that they could move forward making the other less substantial changes to this in order to move forward. Staff would still like it to come back before you because the elevation will change based on adding the door and the other smaller items that are included here. The conceptual application, the survey did not show the easement shown on one version of the survey, which was the one that was submitted with the application, and it is showing up on this revised one here. So if that is removed again from the survey to match what the survey from your conceptual application with the site plan from your current submittal, which does meet the setback, and the HPC determines that that side yard house is an appropriate determination on this, then it would be all more minor yet still character changing items that would need to be addressed. But it would eliminate the need for the trees to be removed from the setback. I would still need the types of trees to be updated to reflect the canopy, which would be accurate size and things like that, but those are less start from zero, more start from 90% of what is here. So staff would still like to come back because there are things that will change what the structure looks like. However, they are, the determination on the building type is one that is important.
That being said, seems like there's the opportunity to make a motion for helping in the direction of possibly resubmitting this? Is that the way I'm kind of understanding it from?
I mean,
It would be not, if I may, it seems as though you'd want to table this request and then provide the direction to the applicant based off of the comments that were provided by staff. I believe that
That would
through
be,
the-
so then.
and through the
then we don't have to make
conversation.
a formal motion, we could just say we're going to table this at this point with the discussions that we had, making those changes to bring it back to this body.
yeah, a motion to
So
table.
at the request of the applicant, a motion to table the application until the next available agenda could be made, and then seconded, and then voted on. The content within the report, if a motion to table is what is proposed, would be able to be discussed, but no motion would be made on this specific criteria. It would be discussion on that criteria.
Could we make a motion to approve it as a side yard house? Then make the other changes to return, or is that not?
Or is it
No, that we
table
don't.
it?
No,
Because
yeah,
it-
you table.
we have to
Table
table
it,
the whole thing.
understanding
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
In short, I think the takeaway is
Yeah.
get rid of the door on the left-hand side, get rid of the landing, add
Add
a
a
front
door
door to the
and-
porch, slide your steps back, get rid of the 10-foot shared access, get your tree canopy right. You've got a beautiful design and great quality materials. You're almost there.
That being said, can I, does someone want to present a motion?
A couple of quick questions, because I want to get this right. We want to move forward. When you table a motion, what is the next agenda? Automatically get on that agenda?
The agenda, say with caution, there are never too many people on an agenda. Please don't test that theory. However, currently that agenda has not been set, and it would be able to be placed on that.
But when do they have to be presented to you so it could be put onto the?
I mean,
With the amount of changes, because the bulk of this staff report is here, I would let that, I could allow for this application to be received past the submittal deadline. And I'm looking at my calendar here because the meeting for September is the 1st. I would need it by the 13th, which is not this Friday, but the following Friday, which would give you just over a week to make some of those changes. Is that something that sounds like it is feasible?
Possible to, I mean, how do you monitor the condition, when you approve something with conditions?
We're missing a major railing detail at the second floor, because I was thinking about that, and I thought, oh, that's really kind of big, and that's not something we can have approved at staff
I've
level.
actually gone through point by point, and I did have comments for everything. There are other people behind us, but regarding what point was that, number?
Tickets.
The upstairs railing,
Yeah,
I don't see
Number
one in your
16?
elevations.
he said it was,
Called out as a hardware cloth that will suffice as fall protection. However, I can't tell you that that meets code, or not necessarily code, but meets the UDA or.
Our building official has requested that there is railing on a second floor balcony. He has not yet to this point approved a balcony that does not have it.
And that has to be not on the outside, but on it has to be on the outside and not on the inside.
Visible on the outside.
cloth material that they use a lot.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about, but Katie just clarified that that's not going to work.
Again, looking at the code, make sure you place it in the right outside.
Oh, yes, which is typical.
Six is 30 inches.
It's labeled as 2.6 to the first floor.
Okay.
The way our Unified Development Ordinance reads, and again, this district, the historic district in Bluffton, the porch height is 30 inches above grade, adjacent grade. The finished floor height is 3 feet from average adjacent sidewalk grade. So the 2.6 is measuring currently to the finished floor height, which would be half a foot lower than it is required to be, and then the porch height would be at what is allowable if that is where they want it to be. It could be raised higher than that if they want a smaller step into the primary from the porch. Correct.
Yes.
There's two. $36, 3 feet.
Okay, so 3 feet.
Average adjacent sidewalk. Yes.
To the road. So, height, not the.
Yes.
The unfortunate thing is that's the code, and we're following the code.
And in theory, it's the same height as all the other houses
So
around
in
you.
other words, you're matching, mirroring everyone else. right?
Just to clarify that real quick, the, looking at the site plan here, you know, it's showing the elevation at edge of pavement at 24.5.
5 and 24.9.
So which is, it's almost, and then the lot is shown at 25.2, so it's not a whole lot, so you're still gonna have to go up 3 feet from the 24.5.
Correct. So how it's labeled on the elevations, it may not need to be raised that much,
That
but
actually suffices.
with how it is currently labeled, it would just need to be updated to reflect adjacent grade versus
And
the
stairs would
average,
also have
or
to
the
be
sidewalk grade, which is fine.
proper.
So,
Then, you know, going back real quick to the insect screening, if this is something that you can speak to Richard Spruce about and get him to approve, give him examples of the materials, you know, that's ultimately, that's coming directly from, you know, from Richard, so.
That's a life safety issue, right?
correct.
Yeah.
So therefore, I'm looking for any further discussion about, if not, the motion?
I
I
believe the
will
motion
make a
is-
motion.
Yes, please.
I make a motion that this project submittal be tabled for the next review period, with the understanding that we do feel this is a side yard house, and the questions pertaining to whether it is a side yard house now become moot. But that there are a number of code issues and design issues that have yet to be resolved and should be seen by the entire commission.
Do I,
Get more detailed than that? Okay.
do I have a second on that? Any further discussion? With that said, can I get a vote? All in favor, aye?
Hey,
Opposed? Motion is passed from Elaine.
Mr. Chairman, as this item will be heard on the next agenda, that is, we will have an opportunity for public comment at that time too, so it's not too important at which location the public comment is included. However, was there public comment on this agenda item? Is there public comment for any agenda item? Okay, I'm just making sure because I do have some people that I don't recognize. You have public comment? Okay, perfect. If I could have you fill out a form, can you get a form, please, for the other item? Perfect, that's just fine. I just wanted to make sure I cover all my bases here. Thank you guys so much for your time. I will follow up with an email that has that in it, and if you can get with your architect as quick as possible, talk about when he sees it being done. I have to publish my.
That's, yes, that's actually extremely common.
First I've ever dealt with that is.
next, I think the next one I have to recuse myself on.
Geology.
Yes, so I have to actually leave the dais.
That's your next door neighbor, huh?
The monos, yeah, anyway.
Thank you.
All right, Katie, thank you.
And for the next item, I recuse myself since they are my next door neighbors.
Thank you, Elaine. And do I have an
We have
applicant from
public
Brighton
comment?
Builders? Jeremiah, can you join us?
Regarding this,
This is not from,
Item?
you are not from Brighton Builders, but you are with this application. You are Brighton Builders. And what was your name? I'm sorry. Jennifer.
if you could introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Jeremiah Smith with Allison Ramsey Architects.
Brighton Builders. Oh, sorry.
I just don't know. We'll work on that when we get there a little bit. We have Jennifer from
Welcome.
Brighton Builders and Jeremiah Smith with
Welcome.
Allison Ramsey Architects here on behalf of the application. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the public comment is for item 3 and 4, so don't let me forget.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Tonight we have before us a certificate of appropriateness application to allow the construction of a new 1.5-story single-family building of approximately 2,196 square feet and a carriage house of approximately 1,172 square feet to be located at 2 Tabby Shell Road, which is Lot 3 in the Tabby Roads development. This is all within the Old Town Bluffton Historic District, and it is zoned neighborhood general HD. You can see the blue square here. Town Hall is at the very bottom of the screen. Pritchard Street runs here with Brune along the middle of the screen. This is the first inward-facing lot in the Tabby Roads development as you turn in. There are the 2 lots that face Pritchard Street on the end here. It is accessed for parking by the alley that runs behind all of those buildings.
Gravel road kind of?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the zoning map, which shows again it in that bright orange. It is surrounded on all 4 sides by the same. And then this is a picture of the lot's existing conditions. I always laugh when I have these posted because my angles are terrible. I apologize. And then this is my Google version, which is a little bit better, a little bit worse, however you decide, so you can see the full extent of the lot here. This is the proposed site plan. So you have Tabby Shell Road at the top of your screen, and then you have Fiddler Lane at the bottom of the screen here, which is the gravel access to the carriage house parking, which runs along the back of all of these homes on this application. I've zoomed in just a little bit here. Didn't do very good on the zoom there. Then you have your first floor, so you can see the porch at the top of the screen. Again, the top of the screen is Tabby Shell Road, with the back being, just kidding. The front of the house is going to be at the bottom of the screen now, which has the full-length front porch. There's a smaller rear porch at the back that is screened in. The second floor, which is actually a half-story because it is less than 70% of the story beneath it, with the roof plan. And then the garage first floor, which will have actual garage space, and then the loft above.
Loft, what's the carriage house? Okay, so that's 1,000 square feet, the loft is?
Yes. I'm sorry, the total square footage is both stories of the thing. The way that the setbacks and square footage that's allowed on the lots within the Tabby Roads development is determined. If the heated square footage is on the first floor of the garage, it counts towards the maximum heated footprint that is permitted on the site. The way that our square footage is calculated for a carriage house, it counts both the first and second floor of that structure. So for Tabby Roads, that first floor does not count towards the heated footprint, but it does count towards the square footage of the carriage house. So multiple guiding documents there. And then I have the roof plan and the foundation plan just for convenience on this slide here. The front elevation, so standing on Tabby Roads, you are looking at the front door and the full-length porch. You have the existing structure to your right, which is closest to this would be a carriage house, and then the rear of the structure that faces Pritchard Street. On the left-hand side, you have an existing residential structure. So this is the right side of the structure, which would be facing that the rear of the lot facing Pritchard Street, the rear which faces the access drive behind, as well as the carriage house, the left elevation, which will be facing the existing residential lot, which faces in towards Tabby still. And then you have the garage elevations as well. So this is the rear elevation of the carriage house, which faces the front of the lot. So that faces in towards the primary structure. The left elevation, which faces the, is closest to the lot that faces the same direction. The right elevation, I'm backwards, left. Okay, so this is the right elevation though, which does face the Pritchard Street house, so it's the back of the house there. And then the garage rear elevation, which is the rear of the lot, which faces the access. I have the details for the carriage house, so you can see this was zoomed in, the bracket detailing that's above the garage door. I clipped it out of the plan so that it was a little bit easier to see, as well as the windows and door jambs, sills, and wall section, and then the details for the primary structure. These are also included in your packet. I've clipped the railing detail, which was on a different sheet, and put it on this one so that they were all close together here and larger than life. We have our landscape plan here, which I have zoomed in several times because it is petite on this page. You've got the bottom of the screen is that Fiddler Lane access with the top being tabby shell. Zoomed in here so that you can see some of the plant callouts, as well as zoomed in bigger so that you can see the detailing of this beautiful drawing. And then I've got your planting schedule for those of you following along at home, Jesse. And then they've also provided the runoff plan here for water to be directed off the site. I have run through these incredibly quickly, as I do every time. We can go back to whichever sheets you need to see more closely. However, as this is a certificate of appropriateness application, the HPC considers the 8 review criteria that are found in section 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance when assessing an application for certificate of appropriateness. The HPC is authorized to approve with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff has found that with the following recommendations, the application would meet those criteria and could be approved with conditions. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like me to go through them, I can go through all of them, or we can go through them individually and discuss in between if you'd like.
As far as the staff recommendations, why don't we go through this? It looks like it's somewhat of the same things that we see often. If you will, just go through it quickly if you can, the staff recommendations.
Yes, sir.
If it's all right with, if there's something that we want to discuss right away, do you want to do it that way? It doesn't look like there's that many items that we really need to review. Would that be all right?
So the first item is the letter of approval from the Tabby Roads HARB. Because this is located in a development that has a review board, we need a letter from them saying that they've reviewed it, they've approved it. That's a pretty standard comment that we see. The second is that a tree removal permit is required. This, again, is something that is standard as long as there are trees that are over 14 inches in diameter breast height on a single-family residential lot. The third item is that the landscape plan or the site plan needs to be revised in order to be consistent with the proposed tree removal. If you take a look at the landscape plan, it is showing the canopy calculation, including a couple trees on here in the rear. So the canopy calculation includes these trees here and this tree here, which are on the site plan proposed to be removed. And so it's just one of the two is not lining up. And if it is the site plan that is accurate instead of the landscape plan, there may need to be additional mitigation that would be included in that. The fourth item is reflective of that as well. The landscape plan would need to be provided with an updated canopy coverage calculation if that is to be accurate. The fifth item is that the dormer facing the rear of the property, our Unified Development Ordinance specifies that dormers should have a majority of their surface area taken up by vents or windows.
Possible to take the elevation and show it?
Yeah. Flip through here. Rear elevation with that dormer up here. So windows or vents shall occupy the majority of a dormer's surface area. This dormer is approximately 40% of the surface area of the window or of the dormer, and so that would need to be revised in order to meet that code section. The next item is that a corner board detail must be provided for review. There just wasn't one that was included in here. The seventh item is that there's plywood listed in the soffit material for the typical porch and wall details. So that would need to be revised to a hardwood or a hardy material, which is permitted by our Unified Development Ordinance. I maybe officially broke the computer, y'all. There is, in the soffit material, it is showing up as a plywood material. And since it will not load at this moment, you will need to take my word for the location of that note.
I think we understand.
Yes. The next item is that the service yard needs to be revised to be no taller than 6 feet in height from grade to top rail. It currently is not exactly specified how high the slab is.
Elevation, possibly.
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
I can, oh, maybe, yes, I hope so. Well, we are going back to paper here for a moment. Oh, or not. It's shown as raised, and when you put a scale to it, it's raised about 6 inches, which would put this almost at it would be at 6 feet, 6.5 feet at the top of the rail, closer to 7 at the top of post, which is just fine. If you can just specify the height of that slab, that is adequate to address that comment, as long as that slab is at grade or very close to. If it is something like 8 inches, then I have more of a challenge with it. The next item is the wall section is showing mixed, is showing a slab foundation. It's showing a smooth finish where the elevations are showing the tabby finish for the stucco. The application also reflects the mixed shell tabby stucco. And so the wall section would need to be updated in order to
We just need
be
to
the same.
know which one it is.
The next item is that the door schedule must be included, showing the proposed door materials. They are not called out on the plans, and so they just need to be shown on the door schedule. The 11th item is that the window on the rear elevation is currently a slider window, which is technically not a permitted, and this is actually the rear.
Which one are we talking about, please?
It's this window right here is shown as a sliding window, which is technically not a window operation that is permitted. We permit for single, double hung, casement, industrial, tilt, or fixed frame in operation, and so that would
I
need
don't
to be
believe we've
revised.
ever approved anything like that.
I believe there is possibly one in Stock Farm that was in a screened rear porch that maybe was that was permitted several years ago. However, I can't think of any other examples of where that was permitted. We have seen them proposed on commercial structures, but and allowed in those instances, but that is
Residential, yeah.
that is up to the commission.
Is that an issue?
I would just like to say that it's on a back screen porch. It's on the rear elevation, similarly to the rear dormer. Not the front. It won't be very visible if you.
Just off the kitchen.
It's
I mean,
this one
I see the
window to
reason
the
you'd be
right.
able to-
Right here.
Oh, okay, that's, oh,
They don't
okay,
show
off
it
the
on,
screen
they
porch.
don't
I
show it
gotcha.
in elevation.
It is
Right
shown
here?
in the
Yeah.
elevation.
Right here in the rear. It's in the kitchen. That doesn't look like a slider, though.
Just above countertop in the kitchen to be able to slide it open.
They
and
want to
pass
open
things
it and
out.
hand out.
And to me, in this instance, I mean, that's something that is functional. It is out of public view. It's more the ease of use for the owner.
But the thing we have to remember is then you're allowing it here where we allow it next time. That's the concern that comes up sometimes.
Directly against what is written.
has been approved in the past?
I believe the window you're talking about is actually different, where it raises up.
There's been that's an awning or a tilt window, an awning window that has been approved. There have been several versions of awning windows that have been proposed and approved within the historic district. I am racking my brain for 6 years of standing before you all, so please do not quote me on the exact number of times, but the sliding window that I can think of that exists in the historic district is the corner lot as you enter Stock Farm. It is the first of the Eugene Marks houses on the right-hand side that are those recycled materials. In the screen porch that wraps, there's a sliding window, I believe, in that side elevation. I don't know the address. The house is red.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, with all due respect, I think the purpose of the board is to make decisions on the intent of the code and sometimes make exceptions. Otherwise, there would be no need for the board. That would just follow all the rules. So if you might consider that.
The 12th item is that additional information, including an elevation, so seeing what the material, the height, the configuration of the fire pit is. At the rear, it is being proposed, I believe the material is listed on the landscape plan. I just need to see the rest of the information that reflects that. And this is, I picked the worst zoom in on this because so it is shown that it is tabby finish, stepping stones, granite fine base around the 48-inch fire pit. So there is some information here, but we'd like to see the elevation of that as well included, which is just a side detail. The next item is that the roof material must be clarified, which shingle roofs may be metal or asphalt, dimensional type, slate, or composite. The application and the elevation show the material being architectural shingle, but don't specify the material. If it is an asphalt material, we just need to know that it's asphalt and not a fiberglass-based material. So that just can be updated on the plans as well. And then the final item is noted that I need a fence detail. However, as I was putting together the slides for this evening's after, oops, I've got two more, I'm sorry, but the fence detail is shown on the, I think, site plan. It's listed as being shown on the landscape plan, and so that's where I originally looked. However, it is being shown here in the corner of the site plan, so I do have that information. With that information, a fence may be a minimum of 24 inches in height and a maximum of 42 if proposed in the front yard, and a minimum of 36 inches, maximum of 6 feet if proposed in a rear or side yard. They can be wood picket fences with corner posts and rail fences, wrought iron or tube steel with traditional finial connections and detailing, brick stucco with texture to match the building, or to be a wood post with hog wire infill and a board railed on top. The fence that's being proposed here is a wire fence attached to wood posts, which is not one of the configurations that is permitted by our Unified Development Ordinance, and it would also need dimensional requirements on it, so that is something to note there. And then the actual final item that I had is the number of window and door proportions must be reduced in order to provide a better proportional relationship to the structure.
Can you show us
yes,
what you're
I can
talking
go
about,
to it.
please?
Did you use the casement windows upstairs so it would meet code?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I mean, you could bump the dormer out and then just a little bit just to get that extra 6 inches and go to double hung.
So the challenge that staff has with the number of windows proposed, the primary structure has 5 different window sizes, each with different proportions. And so if you look at the windows, you have 1 unit by 2 units, then you have 1 unit by 2 1/4 units, or some variation of that, or 3/4 by 2. So each one of them, as you take those proportions, they don't increase by dragging the corner, they increase by dragging the sides of the shape is, I guess, the easiest way to describe what it is that I'm looking at there. So there are 5 different window sizes, each with different proportions on the primary, and 3, including 3 different transom windows, 2 doors that have different light patterns on them, which that's not something that typically would be a challenge, except that there are 5 different windows as well. So when you add the different doors to the different windows as well, it compounds the challenge there. And then the carriage house has 2 different proportion windows that are the same as 2 that are on the primary structure. So the conceptual application had windows on the carriage house that did not reflect any of the windows on the primary structure, with I think the exception of 1, and that has been reduced to have better proportional relationship to the primary, but the number of windows on the primary is still something that staff would like you to take a closer look at.
Righty. Board and commission, what are comments and questions?
I mean, for me, I don't know for everyone. I think what might be helpful in this would be real quick, maybe if Jennifer or Jeremiah, if y'all wouldn't mind responding to some of these. I mean, because some of them might be a quick, like, yeah, we're going to update that. We'll add that detail.
Let's see if there's any other
Okay.
discussion with the board first.
I think that's a good path.
Eliminate some of them.
I'm sorry?
That may, if they clarified some of them, that may eliminate.
All right.
Yeah, thank you. We can handle or correct or provide details for almost all of them. So the ones I think would be worth discussing are 5, if you have them in front of you, 5, 10, 11, and 15. So on number 5, the rear dormer, I would just
If
say.
you could put that up on elevation, thank you.
Number 5 is about the windows filling the dormer. I think it's a good general rule.
Passed it.
I'm not sure how we would do that without putting a window in the closet. Again, I think this is the back, and I think maybe this is an okay exemption. Number 10, the door schedule. If it's okay with the board and with staff, I'd rather just tell you the proposed material instead of doing a door and windows schedule. Wood or metal, I'm not sure yet, but I believe both. 11 is that slider window, which we already went over. And 15 is all the different window sizes. My opinion is, you don't want all the same window sizes or proportions. Maybe that looks a little more cookie cutter to me. Having said that, we can some of those. I would probably just take the transoms off the front windows so that they're more similar. I do think it makes a kind of a statement like these are special and different on the front, so I think that makes sense that they're different. That would be one solution, is to make those like the others.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the transoms, when I was doing the count for the number of window sizes, the transoms were not included in, the transoms were included as a separate count. The transoms are different, like the width between the transom above the door and the transoms above the windows are different widths. However, the window itself without the transom does
still
not
have
match
5?
other windows on the house. So it's the transom, staff has no issue with the transoms being on the front and not on the back so much as the different shape of the window underneath the transom.
Did you include, are you saying you did not include the transom as a window? If you're talking about the 5 different windows? Is that what?
There are 5 different windows,
Without?
5 different true windows with 3 technically, but 2 different transom windows.
So there's 7.
Yes,
Possibilities
but
you
your
would look
transom
at.
windows will never be the same as your primary
Correct.
windows, so that, I don't want that to take away from the
But
5.
I'm trying to clarify,
Yes.
okay, we have actually 5 different windows and you exclude the transom, so now we still have an issue with 5 windows.
I think that goes a long ways, though, eliminating those transoms and elevating that header height to the same as the say the master bedroom, it has two 8 6 4-inch difference as the front porch windows.
It looked more like the back porch, where you got the transom above, well, no.
Width
no.
corresponds with the entry door.
What you're saying is put the back windows on the front, so we eliminate one of the sizes.
In essence, but the width still remains at 3.0, which is the same width as the entry doors, so proportionately, it makes sense.
The 4-inch difference you would kind of count as being the same, not 2.
Never going to see the front and the back at the same time. And then I think that, you know, the dormers above, that doesn't cause me any heartburn at all. I think that you eliminate those front transoms and probably takes care of the window.
The casement window, are you going to use are they going to look like a double hung? Are they going to put that, or you want it to look like a casement?
I was planning to look like a casement. Squatty to have 2 sashes, or look like 2 sashes.
Now, when motions are made and there's a difference from the code to what we're doing, we have to clarify why we're approving that for the purposes of saying what was the circumstance or what was the issue that we had to approve that. So we can't just say we're approving it, we have to say why. Motion, in other words, because of, does that make sense?
It does, and in this instance, I would, if I were to word that, I would state that it is within an enclosed screen porch facing an alleyway.
The slider window.
Slider window, okay.
Slider at the back.
Because we do need to clarify that. Because otherwise, we may start seeing that on the front. And, you know, just suppose.
Sure, absolutely.
Somebody said, you know, just as I asked Katie, but now we don't want that to happen. So we need to make sure that a motion is made that clarifies why you approved what alternate or a change to the UDO.
Going back to number 5, there currently are no shutters anywhere else on the house. And there really aren't any louver details. So it's tough to find a solution without adding something that doesn't currently exist to fill in some of that wall space
On the dormer?
on the rear dormer.
Once we approve shutters on one window, we have to prove it has to be placed on all windows.
Yeah, that is not showing shutters.
No, but the concern being there's not enough glazing on that dormer.
And I don't understand why you can't do that.
So the dormer, when you look at the floor plan here, this is the area that is shown in the dormer. So you've got the 2 windows here. There's a closet door that is this space here. It's 3/8, I think, if I'm. So you've got 3/8 of closet, then 2/3 to center of window, 3/2 to center of window, and then I think that says 3/11. I'm
That
sorry,
looks
it's
like
very
511. It looks like 511. Yeah.
So there is a closet that is functioning here.
Putting a narrow bedroom.
I know
too,
we've
you don't
had
wanna-
numerous discussions on this in the past. I'm kind of to the point where I think we need to stick with the code for that, for the purposes of sticking with the code. And that may sound ridiculous, you know, and I know that that's why the body is here, because we're trying to interpret what is trying to be presented, and sometimes it's not exactly what the applicant wants to hear, but it's for the betterment of keeping the harmony of Bluffton and as Bluffton is. Sometimes tough decisions, but I think that, you know, keeping Bluffton why it is Bluffton today. So, discussions?
I definitely agree with you. I think it's appropriate that they need to be, not to make an exception for this.
Anybody else have an opinion?
I was just gonna add, when you were saying that this is about 40% coverage, the windows of the dormers, I think.
Could move the closet door back and put in 3 windows, which would take up more. Just make the closet not as deep.
I think you recommended that one in another proposal. Didn't you recommend that same?
Possibly. Because it's already 3/6 is plenty deep closets. I mean, you could just bring that back and just reconfigure and add a 3rd window.
Opinions, discussion? Like that's a reasonable solution. Would that meet the qualified requirement?
What is the percentage of,
It doesn't have a percentage, it says the majority. The majority of a dormer space shall be covered in vents or windows.
So the word majority, so right now, it's really not.
51%?
Count trim?
I think that I did include trim when I did my math, but I may be mistaken on that.
But you'd have to be consistent with your trim on all windows.
7-11. If it's 15 feet wide dormer, if you had 3, what are they, 2/8? So that's 3, 6, 9, that's well over half. You just added a 3rd window.
My guess would be it's close to 66%, but I could be mistaken.
So we're meeting the majority then.
Three windows at 2.6 on a 15-foot wide dormer would be more than half, at least.
Not small windows. I mean, they are 2.8, and the height is 4.6, so a good bit of glazing. And in essence, the sill sits on the roof line. The head casing touches the cornice work or the fascia board, frieze board below. But there is a good bit of wall space there. You know, another configuration could be a single large egress window with 2 flanking smaller windows.
And just
But
to
then we added
achieve that
another
at all,
window.
just slide the
With that, be careful, we're not adding,
Yeah, so
I
then we
mean,
just added another
window
window.
size.
window.
action.
Correct.
One thing, I mean, and this, I'm just bringing it as an idea here. There is some amount of attic space that is not in here. Is there a way that it could possibly be reconfigured where you can move the location of the closet to perhaps not have a head height of 8 feet, which is,
It does already. It slopes down in the back of it.
it's already sloped down to, I'm sorry, I'm considering that portion of it here for the first time. I just see that there is some attic space that could possibly be worked into.
Yeah, I think if you just,
yeah, it
it'd
does
be
drop
easy
down.
just to make that closet not as deep.
Here's your 8 feet from second finished floor is here.
All right, is there any further discussions from the commission?
Is that something that you were going to change? Okay.
And any further input? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask what you were gonna change to, or what were you, yeah. Oh, for the
Fence.
fence.
Oh, look at what's required again more, but we'll just requirements.
I can say that the Tabby Roads HARB may have an opinion on that matter. They have been fairly standardized in what they allow in that development, so that may impact your decision.
And I mean, there is a section of the fence where it looks like it abuts a neighbor's fence. Is that, is there any desire trying to match it, or how? I mean, it looked like on the plan that you were showing 2 lines there. Were
I'll have to look into that more, sorry.
okay? No, that's
All right, with that, and any further discussion and any further comments from the applicant, staff?
I would like a little clarification on the dormer, what the help.
A motion, if we were to make a motion, we probably need to clarify how that dormer should look.
Just something else, just to see what your feedback might be. If that rear dormer was not centered on the back, so basically we move the room over.
What are you gonna put it over? I mean,
There's,
The dormer's still gonna be the size of the dormer. So it's not the location, it's the dormer size and the windows that are contained within the dormer.
if we shifted the room over, we could put 3 windows and keep a nice square shape.
would you shift it over to be in front of the gable, on the, like, peak of the gable, shift it over so the center of the dormer's on the peak of the gable? Shift, if I'm
It's
looking
right
at it on the rear, shift it to the
Which way are you
right.
shifting it per the elevation
The
we're
center
looking
line
at?
of the gable would align with the peak of this gabled roof above the back porch.
Yeah.
Possibly, yes.
Are you you're looking at it left to right, so you're actually shifting it right from what we're seeing now?
Which will, actually, I personally think that would look nicer because it's a nice line
Yeah,
when you're looking at it.
yeah.
And it wouldn't bother me that it's not centered on the main roof if it's centered
centered
over
on the
that
gable, yeah.
porch.
That's good.
And it is required that elements should be centered over things that align with them. So that would align with the porch columns as well. It'd be
And the
above
doors
porch
above
columns.
it, I mean, that would look real nice when you're looking at it, easier to look at.
So it is meeting that also because it's,
To allow for a small amount of wiggle room with this for the applicant, if it is acceptable by the commission that they add a 3rd window while leaving it in the same location that it is, or moving the dormer right in order to allow for those additional windows to be added,
can't we just
To be
make
in
the
line,
motion moving the
please make
dormer
sure
over?
that the motion is clear on
I
that.
like
I
to
mean, if
move it
somebody
to
were
the
to make
right.
the motion, just say dormer will be moved over to center it to the gable. Is that adequate?
It is, however, that motion allows for no wiggle room should the structural engineering not allow for it to be lined up over that, where if they reduce the size of the closet, they will still be able to meet the 3 windows, which was originally what we discussed. If that's not what your intent is, then that is, can be left out of the motion. If you want there to be wiggle room for it to not align with the porch, but stay where it is aligned with the main mass, but still include the extra window, it just needs to be clarified in your motion.
I don't think you're going to be able to get the egress without adding another size window by reducing the closet size and having 3 windows. If you do move that dormer, you're going to have to take that stair with it, which is going to transition down to the 1st floor.
No, you wouldn't, you just have to shift it this way, it'll just eat up the closet.
Shift it away from the stair.
Gosh.
I appreciate what Katie's trying to do, give us some flexibility. I'm fine either way. You guys decide.
My only concern is that if we shift it away from the stair, that dormer is actually, a portion of that is a carryout from the stairwall.
Not
You're saying,
much.
there is, can you see on here where the 5-foot head height
Yeah,
is marked? Right here.
yes.
If you look, the stairs are here, so just this much is
That's
on
the bottom of the stairs. The stairs land here.
Opposite.
So when someone's coming from the rear of the structure, walking towards the front as they go up the stairs.
You're walking towards the hall when you go up the stairs?
Correct.
So it wouldn't, it looks opposite though in here to me.
It does, but you cannot land in the closet when you
Yeah.
ascend the
That's
stairs.
what- Yeah, I noticed that
And so the way it's labeled on here, it looked that way to me as well until just now when I started realizing I would walk into a walk. But that's, I think, Josh, do you see what I'm?
I do, but in essence, that's a two-story wall of the stair. It leads down to the first floor.
Correct.
But that, well, you could leave and
Well,
just
they
have a
still-
little jog right there.
So-
Leave the door where it is and just jog the dormer over.
Right?
My only concern in giving it that caveat is that if it creates something architecturally odd as a result of that stairwell being two-story going up and serving as the end point of that dormer, that's the only thing.
You're either moving it this way or that way. Cutting up, right, that wall stays the same.
If we're taking everything this way.
You could
If
leave
wall
this wall
stays
and
the
just
same,
do, you could leave
so
that wall.
Leave that dormer wall on the left-hand side. Extend it further to the right? Is that what?
Yes.
Actually, no, because the stair goes up this way and the roof goes up this way too.
I think we're kind of overstepping our.
I do too.
I agree.
We're architect, yeah, we're not,
We're
we're
not
not, we're not.
Well, I'm just trying to find a way to get the
In
third
other words,
window in.
architecturally, we're trying to just become the architects, and that's a very good point, is we're not structural people. So we're just, make the outside look like this and figure it out. I mean, basically, that's,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, would it meet the intent of what you are getting at with the possibility that the stair would affect the exterior if that dormer moves, if you allowed for the majority of the dormer surface to be covered in windows, which may result in shifting the dormer or leaving it aligned with the center of the main mass?
yeah.
So in
It's up to
theory,
you.
in theory, they could move it and add a window, leaving the closet the same size, and the stair wouldn't affect the exterior, but if we find that the stair does affect the exterior, then they could reduce the size of the closet and still fit the window? Does that?
Now, a change like that could be presented to staff, because that is changing the intent of the exterior, but does it have to be brought just to staff, or could it be brought to HPRC, or just simply staff?
That is up to whoever makes the motion. With the detail that I have received on this specific item at the rear of the structure, I feel confident that I can
Staff can
make that
handle it.
determination or bring it back to HPRC or to this commission if you would rather see it here. Any of those options are something that could be considered.
But it could be brought to staff for approval.
If the commission feels that I can look
Whoever
at
makes
the
the motion,
dormer
just-
surface and determine that it meets the intent of your motion.
Okay,
Given the fact that it says 66% roughly, and it's facing the alleyway on the back of the home,
okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Anyone willing to,
What did we decide about the slider window?
that's a great question. I think I'm personally kind of opposed to it.
But is there not another option that's, I mean, but that is not going to impede on the homeowner's purpose or intent?
My personal opinion on it is I don't want to start seating them. Anyone? I know it's in the
I mean,
back.
yeah,
I know it's on the
I'm
porch.
okay with it in this instance coming out of a kitchen on a rear
Facing that alley.
elevation.
I'm okay.
I mean, I certainly,
So if a motion was
Understand.
made, you know, stating something like that would be appropriate. In other words, justification for, if somebody else stuck it in our face, well, wait a minute, this is, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have included in red my understanding of what was discussed. That being said,
That's
please
great,
feel
thank
free
you.
to change it. And then highlighted this because there was some discussion on it, so please make sure to specify in the motion, should you be listing per staffs, and then make a decision on those items.
And if you make a motion, you're able to just say the items that are written except for item number 5, and I think
I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendations as written, with the exception of staff recommendation number 5, as for windows or vents to occupy the majority of the dormer surface, which could result in shifting the dormer to align with the porch, and that would be predicated on staff review. That one too.
Sorry.
And number 11, revise the 40046 slider window on the rear elevation to be single double hung casement, industrial tilt or fixed frame in operation, as written. And again, they can be considered staff review.
can I have a second on that?
I second that.
Is there any further discussion on the motion at hand? If not, looking for a vote on that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Passed. Very good.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. I will follow up with a letter tomorrow so that you have that information. And just for the record, remember, Elaine did abstain from that vote as she was recused from this item. Elaine, you can join us again, though.
All right. Now, it looks like we have some comments that are, or some audience here, and those comments are going to be made after we have the staff remark, or we have the presentation of the, let's see, new business is, staff does the presentation, board and commission makes comments, public comment on the current agenda, so that would be, I will ask for those when it's appropriate. So if you can, Katie, go ahead. Who is the applicant? Hello, and could you state your name, please?
Howard Feldman,
Hello. Welcome.
DFL Builders, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Howard, for being here tonight. The next item that we have on the agenda is a certificate of appropriateness request to allow the construction of a new 1.5 single-family building of approximately 2,113 square feet and a carriage house of approximately 704 square feet to be located at 30 Merriweather Court, which is identified as Lot 4 in the Landon Oaks development in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District and Zone Neighborhood General HD. This is the lot here. It is on the right-hand side of that brand-new paved cul-de-sac that is off of Thomas Hayward Street. Tonight, I have a surprise. We have both of them here and then here, so spoiler alert, that's what comes after this one. So the May River Road is at the top of the screen with Thomas Hayward coming down towards the bottom of the screen. Merriweather Court is that new cul-de-sac. This is the one at the back right of the cul-de-sac. The mailboxes are located along the very back of this cul-de-sac here. And then lot 5 is the kind of quadrilateral that is at the bottom of the cul-de-sac here. So you can see it is surrounded on all sides except for the rear in the neighborhood general. That yellow zone is the neighborhood conservation HD zoning district. And then this bold red here is the neighborhood core, I believe. And so this is you're seeing the cul-de-sac is that questionable shape here with your lots on either side flanking. This is the lot that is being discussed at present, lot 4. So you can see there are a couple of large trees towards the front of the lot here, as well as a few towards the back. This is the actual configuration. So the bubble here is located in the street of the cul-de-sac. The lift station, which is at the end of the Guilford Place cul-de-sac, is right here. Then there's residential here, as well as the donut shop and jewelry box towards May River Road here. This is the placement. You have your driveway, which runs along the right side of the lot. The applicant has requested a deviation from the front build-to. It is meeting the rear and side setbacks. And so I'll discuss that a little bit further, but to retain some of the larger specimen trees towards the front of the lot here. So I just want to draw that to your attention on the site plan. Here it is again with the proposed trees for removal towards the rear of the lot as well as the front of the lot. The trees being retained. The house is sited so that it is facing the cul-de-sac with the carriage house towards the back here. This is the first floor plan, so you can see the front porch at the bottom here with a side stoop and mudroom being enclosed on the side here. And then the second floor, which is actually a half story because it is less than 70% of the story beneath it. Your roof plan. And then the carriage house. So you have the first floor, which has the single car garage here, as well as some open space that has storage enclosed at the rear here. So underneath the breakfast nook and bathroom here is exposed to the outside world here. And then your storage is located at the back. You can see that along your foundation plan where your door is still back here. You've got your primary, but then this exits out into the open air. The elevations for your primary structure, you have the side stoop here, which if you walk down these side stairs, you end up in the driveway. The front comes towards the cul-de-sac. They've got the hip roof over the porch, which is just under full facade here. The side elevation, again, you can see that enclosed mudroom here with the door on the side of the house coming out onto the driveway. And they've got planter boxes that have been proposed on the sides of these railings here, which are not necessarily architecturally significant, but still cute, subjectively cute. And then you have the rear elevation. So this would face the back of the lot, which in this case is going towards May River Road and the carriage house at the rear of the lot. This site does have a structure that is being proposed, that is being constructed currently to the left of it, which is to the, I'm sorry, that way, which is, it's almost done. It's blue and it's going up. I'm really bad at my addresses, y'all, but 20 Merriweather, I think is what it is. So this is the left elevation here. So this is the side that would be facing towards Stock Farm, correct? Not crazy? Yes, towards Stock Farm. So the right-hand side is facing towards the Thomas Hayward. This is facing towards Stock Farm, which is, in this lot's case, the lift station that is at the end of the cul-de-sac here. And I've done a better job showing some of those elevations towards the end because I have put together a montage, and you'll enjoy that for you. So here's the elevations for that carriage house. So this is facing towards the front of the lot, which is the cul-de-sac. You can see the garage door here with this door, which is actually pushed all the way back. That is that storage area that you're seeing. So this is open air here and pushed back, so it's back here. You can see it on this elevation as well. So here's that little wall of the storage, which is where that door is being shown. And then this is open, so you can walk from the stairs straight through and touch the side of the garage portion of the garage. Then I have provided for you the detailing here. That planter. The tree removal plan. So I've included this. I typically don't include this portion of it because a tree removal permit is required. However, it is important to note that an arborist did visit this site to make a determination on some of it, which is in another slide, but there are some oaks that were labeled as laurel oaks on the survey, which, as the arborist has noted in his letter and on this tree removal plan that's on the screen, they are not laurel oaks, they are water oaks. And so that's just something to take into consideration as you look at that site plan. And this is where it is showing as those laurels at the back here. So this one is actually a water oak here. And then the 24 and 20 are also, so this is the 20 and the 24 inch, I missed, but this one right here, that are being proposed as part of the removal, and have been mislabeled on this plan. This is the landscape plan, which shows the grass area, the turf area here, and then the grass, I've got my numbers funky here. The grass area with some plantings along the sidewalk here, photocarpus along the edge, and then that's what I have here. Before I go through these items, this is the letter from the certified arborist. It's addressed to Will, as he's the one who's reviewing most of the tree removal permits these days, but it is just to note that these are the water oaks that were mislabeled on one of the surveys that showed the trees on there, so I wanted to make sure that that is something that is taken into consideration with this application. Before I go through staff recommendation, I have a slight spoiler alert for your next application, but I have put the elevations next to each other so that you can see them. However, never will you be able to see the front of both of these in one view plane because they face each other. So you can see them out of your peripheral maybe a little bit, but you will be
Same
facing
house plan.
lot 5 and lot 4. So the fronts will be visible as you drive, and you can turn the cul-de-sac, but the fronts won't ever line up, and you won't see the rights at the same time. You will actually see a left and a right at the same time.
And
So
the center has a big planting drainage cul-de-sac.
yes, so it is important that there is some variation in them. However, I just want to make sure that we understand that they're lined up on the screen. That's not how they look in the world, because they face each other. So you can't draw that exactly. So then these are the right elevations, which again will actually, because they face each other, be flipped. And the left elevations, and I'm flipping through these quickly. I will go back to my promise, and the rear of both of those. But this is what you will see as you approach from Thomas Hayward. So the front porches, they will not be this close together because there is the cul-de-sac in between, but my slide is only so wide. And this is not to scale. So the ridge height is actually the same. I just did a bad job at pulling the corner there. So you can see as you drive in from Thomas Hayward, the blue house that Ernie is building, 20 Merriweather, is located in front of this house. Then you will have the driveway in this house, and then you'll turn past the mailboxes, which will be in between, and then you will be facing the front, and then in your rear view window, you will see the left elevation of lot 5 here.
Katie, quick question. As we're discussing the similarities of these two structures, the home that's being built currently on lot 3, is that this same model?
No.
That was a custom design, and it's pretty much different, real different.
Gotcha.
And then this is what the view from, which there's not an exact view from Stock Farm because there's a lift station, some wooded area, and there's some cove space behind part of it. But if you were to be able to stand in the Stock Farm development behind the mailboxes and just take a bunch of steps backwards, this is the view that you would see here. The pump station with its is covering a portion of this here, and then this is the side that would face towards the portion that is in the neighborhood conservation there.
No one's ever going to see that.
Less. It will be able to be seen less for sure. It is what will be seen from that development in part. Oop, and that was the end of my slideshow. So I would be happy to go through the staff recommendation. We have Howard here on behalf of the BFL builders, and we can answer any questions that you have.
That's the staff remarks. Okay, next is, I'm following the script. I just found this thing, so it's like, hey, you guys finally provided me a cheat sheet. Hey, thanks, Kevin. It's like, this has been missing forever. Anyway, board commission comments and questions.
Comments about the square windows on the north side, I guess? House, not the carriage house.
It's a little slow to load. I'm trying for you.
Okay. Sorry, left elevation. They seem to be sort of randomly placed, and they're all square. We also have,
I think one's in a stairwell.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a two-story, so it's going up the,
yeah. We do occasionally allow square windows, but not a whole facade of them.
They're all really small.
Yeah,
they're not square per se, they're taller than they are wide. They're close. And so we put the dividers in them. Those could easily be,
They just don't look to scale with the
change.
house either, to me.
yeah, there's an awful lot of bare wall there. If any of those, and I see a couple of them in pairs, if any of those pairs could be windows of a similar size to one of the other ones that already exist, maybe on the right, the middle, the bump out on the right elevation, something like that might fit.
Is there a reason why they're so small and haphazardly?
well, they're set up higher as well. On that side of that house, there's, first, you're waiting.
Look at
There's, for one thing, there's nothing outside that elevation other than the fence to Stock Farm and the pump station fence. So the windows are set up higher, right? So that you're not just looking at the fence and stuff out there.
Would you like to see the elevation or the floor plan? I'm sorry.
Yeah, whatever you want to put up there.
First floor plan shows
Yeah,
what
the windows become more, on this house, not such a big deal, but they become more critical as we move around the other side of the street.
Wouldn't it
where-
be opposite on the one across the street?
yes,
It
you-
would-
So
it
those
would be
windows
very
would be
similar.
facing Thomas Lawton, is that it?
Thomas Hayward.
Thomas Hayward.
It looks to me like the spaces inside could potentially take larger windows, certainly the master bedroom, and I'm not going to design that for you, but at least some of those windows
Yeah, no,
really want to
absolutely.
be long.
If that's
longer.
desirable, yeah, I can change
Yeah.
that.
Some of your Muntin patterns look odd, so you've got some, where did I just see it? There's taller windows, it's on the carriage house. You've got some tall windows with just one vertical muntin. I think you need at least a horizontal in there to be more like the other ones.
Sorry, the PowerPoint has frozen entirely.
The operator?
But those are the only things that jumped out at me, were just the,
Oh, that's good, thank you.
Packet, so don't take it home with you, but you can look at it while I try and get this to load so that you can look at the different windows.
I was wondering about, are those windows in the corner that butt up to the
yeah,
wall?
up in the kitchen. It looks like over the sink and dishwasher.
Oh, I guess
one are you
that's the
talking
flip
about?
side of it. But this bottom one also?
which ones?
On the-
Those, yeah, both of those, look, they just have those vertical muntins in them. They just need a center horizontal.
Elaine, you're
carriage
talking
house.
about the carriage house?
Yeah, carriage.
Like that one and the.
Oh.
I mean,
That's correct.
This
yes,
window
and they
here?
need a
Yeah.
side
That one and then the two others.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind of
to your
funny.
left
looking.
dividers in the window.
Hey, yeah, I think you're right.
Next
And
to
then
your
the other
left,
one on the other side,
next to your left hand, right there.
right below the front
See, it's like they
elevation.
got corner
No,
glass
top
right by that
left.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Here and here?
Nope, top left to your
Oh, the-
sheet.
Oh, like
Right
right
there.
there.
Right.
But then what about this one?
Let's
There we go.
just asking for a line in
The
the
three of
middle.
them would be better without any muntins in them.
Well, they
But we
want
have
to,
to
they
have
want
them
to
'cause the rest
relate
of them have-
to the other ones, so,
So you're right, I mean, we should put a horizontal, make it 2 over 2.
Well,
Right.
these two, this one
and
and
that one, yeah,
all-
exactly.
all
They're all
four
the
of
same
these.
size, yeah.
Maybe. Here we go. Sorry, guys.
Good.
Figured it out. Extra computers. So what we are looking at, is this elevation correct? Oh, no. Funny. This elevation here.
That for the
The
square
carriage
windows,
house.
but we're talking right now about the carriage house.
We've moved on. Okay.
Yeah, those vertical. I think you figured out which ones we're talking about.
Talking about rear elevation carriage house, left elevation carriage house, and front elevation carriage house.
Just
And
needs-
actually,
just
there's
needs
a
an
right
addition.
elevation carriage house too.
Just the rear and the right side.
Well, but
Right.
what about this one then too?
The front elevation
That's
also.
the one, yeah.
You got that one, you got this one, and that one.
What's the one on the left elevation? Oh, is that a door?
That's next to the door, I think.
Yeah, the door
he
probably
was
could use that.
supposed to have changed those, but.
So then left elevation of the house with the big bare wall. And I think you've got
Yeah.
a few
Yeah, that's
opportunities
fine.
there.
Okay, we'll fix that up.
We're just letting Katie catch up with the,
I will catch up. I promise. I think I can. I think I can.
we're ahead of you, we're done.
What I like to hear.
One of the commonalities of, and you'll eventually get to see from when we do the other side, the houses on the other side. One of the commonalities of the designs is that the houses are kind of meant to nest together. Have kind of an open side and a private side. Should have taken advantage of the opportunity not having that on this one, I think.
You know, large windows let in daylight, and it makes for a nicer space anyway.
There's curtains.
When the HPC considers a certificate of appropriateness, they can approve with conditions, or deny the application in accordance with Section 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. You guys will have that memorized eventually. I do. Staff has found that with the following conditions, it could meet that. The first is that a tree removal permit is required. This is something that we see on almost every application that has trees. The second item is that I've put in here that architectural changes should be made to be more representative of the architectural diversity of Old Town Bluffton Historic District. I have added that comment from the time of conceptual application. This product has come a very long way. I have included it in here as there are a few opportunities where something could be incorporated should the HPC find that that is something that could be changed. For example, the area in the gabled end, which has the vertical board and batten instead of the side, the alternate siding material, could be removed from one or the other. It is hard to make this statement out loud without having shown you the entirety of the other application
No,
first.
I had the exact same thought.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that it's been included here. The porch configuration, we've seen applications which have had the porch have stairs that come from the side, or changing the railing, not the railing itself, but the spindles on the porch, changing shape or configuration. So there's ones that go horizontal, or this is vertical, and then there are some that have like the X's or something similar to that, which would also be an opportunity.
They did change it up a little bit from when we first
They
saw it.
have.
They're quite a bit different.
Yes. And should my presentation work again, we can take a look at that a little bit closer here. I'll open at least one of them. However, I have placed that as a condition in here, but would like to note that the applicant has gone a long way from what was conceptually submitted. So that is something to be considered by the HPC. The third item is that the landscape plan with an updated canopy coverage calculation needs to be provided. On this letter, it appears that it will likely be met, but I need to see the calculations on that just to show it updated rather than in the letter form.
Try not to throw my partner under the bus on this one.
So his partner will update that for us, is what I'm hearing. The fourth item is that the traditional construction pattern section 31 and 32, the number of door and window proportions should be reduced. In this application,
Did they already do
There
that? 'Cause I
are
only see 3 window sizes here.
4 different window sizes on the primary, and 5 on the carriage house, none of which overlap with the proposed primary structure. There is one location where I believe that the window has possibly been mislabeled from the conceptual to move to the final on the floor plan, which is where I was taking those numbers from. So it may be that there is one less size on the primary structure than the carriage house. So there could be 3 on the primary and still 5 on the carriage house, which would still not overlap. So 1, 2, 3, am I crazy?
1, 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3 on the carriage house and 3 on the house.
I believe this one's actually a different size perhaps than this one too, which would be 4. And then the primary house, you have 1, 2, 3, and 4.
They all should be the same.
Oh, those
Yeah,
are the
those look
same.
the same.
3,
That's where I came up with,
here's my 4th.
came up with
Yeah, the
3.
3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and I'm fairly confident that I counted 4 on the floor plans because I counted them out based on the numbers that were provided on the floor
Might be
plans.
one mislabeled.
Maybe
So
a mislabeled one.
it may be a
yeah.
mislabeling, and that is something that can be considered by the HPC as well.
Transom, would that be it?
I wouldn't have counted that
No,
one.
that doesn't really count. Low door, is that a normal sized door? Front door?
It's a 6/8 door with a transom above. We have
Oh.
high head heights on the windows.
Low door for a front door around here, but
But, you could
If
raise
you
the
like an
plate.
8-foot door better, that's fine by me too.
I mean, if you raise just the roof a little bit, you could see the whole door.
Yeah.
9-foot ceiling height, you could very easily have that 8-foot entry
Yeah,
door.
if that's preferred, that's fine by me.
And that would also eliminate and make them look, the porch spacing more vertical and less square.
yeah,
Yeah.
the other house has it that way. I think they tried to make this one look a little different, but then you end up with a door that looks a little short for this neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, let's do that.
And if it runs in, you can just drop the pitch because,
That is a solid mahogany door? It does not have a glass panel above?
No, it should be, did he not, oh, that he labeled it. It should be a light.
Can't tell
We'll
on
we'll
here.
have to resubmit that when we,
So is that, anywhere on any recommendation?
The door is noted as solid wood on the application.
is that what he had? on?
Yeah. So it's a solid wood door, no light.
I'm just looking to see if you have that as a staff recommendation, and if not, we need to make sure we add that.
What?
I have it is not a staff recommendation. If you'd like to change what their door material or sizing is, that would need to be included, but their door has been proposed as solid wood door, which is permitted.
Fine, yeah.
But if we're changing this size of the
Yes.
door, we have to note that.
Yes. The next item I have is that the HPC must determine if an exception to the front build-to line is appropriate to preserve the protected trees at the front of the lot. The HPC does have the ability to allow a deviation from the front build-to if it is to preserve preserve natural features or other architecture that is historic. And so that code section is tied to that.
I hate to be redundant, but if we do make a motion, we have to note this.
I missed where the deviation was happening.
So on the front of the lot,
You pointed to some trees, but I don't know what's different from what it should be.
so the front setback for an additional building type here is 10 to 20 feet, and it's being proposed at 27 feet from the front property line.
Well, it's a funky front line though, so,
That's the closest point is at 27 feet.
Oh, okay.
It extends well beyond that down here, which is 38 feet and 4 inches, according to this to
From
the
the-
edge of the porch, which
yeah,
is then
from
another
the-
6 feet beyond that. So the front build to, which is pulled from this corner here, from here to here is 27 feet approximately. I picked a point at the curve which was perpendicular to the house. So that it's approximately a 7-foot deviation from that front build to, but they are able to meet the rear and side setbacks, which is something that the HPC would then be able to consider on that front. It has been done many times before to preserve trees, et cetera, and staff has no issue with what is being proposed in this instance. That being said, it is up to the HPC to make that determination.
Some of that had to do with it had a lot to do with keeping those trees in the front. What's difficult in this format is you see on the drawing a little drawing of a tree, but you don't know where it goes and what direction.
You don't see the canopies.
We're trying to keep the house away from getting into the.
Talking about trees, what are your plans as far as eliminating cars running over the root system?
If you're gonna protect the trees, right?
We're going to have to protect the trees because if you have your construction
Yeah,
guys just
just
running
on the
over them,
driveway?
they're going to die in 5 years
No,
and they're
we'll
all going to
make
be
the whole
chopped
thing
down.
no,
I'm sorry?
a tree protection zone. We do the whole front like that.
You're going to have a tree
Yeah.
protection
The
zone?
only way in and out would be through the driveway there.
But will you provide a tree protection zone?
Yes, oh yeah. Yeah, I thought that was required. Right.
Well, I'm just
Yes.
making sure that
Yes.
it's.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, yeah.
Especially when the exception is around the tree, the health of the tree, right?
Yes. Just so we don't miss that. And large enough so you had an arborist, large enough so that you're not crushing the roots and.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Speaking of trees, walking this property, there appears to be a live oak on the rear property that is labeled here to be removed. If we look at C1.0, there are 2 trees. It's within this sheet exactly what it's labeled as.
All the back are down.
It's gonna be the best one.
But I thought that I read somewhere where it states that the only trees that are being removed, where it did not indicate that a live oak was being removed, other than the diseased batch that's,
Yeah, most everything in the back is kind of crappy.
there's one that's been
They all just
recently,
do this, they don't go up, they just do this. And a couple of them are dead back there too.
there's a little batch, and the arborist, or try to find the location where I'm referencing.
Removal plan, you mean?
Trying to break it.
Letter that
Look in
talked
here.
about something mislabeled or something like that?
Sorry.
Says 10-inch live oak, yeah.
The damaged ones that are referenced,
The cluster of 3, yes.
and I don't know that they are in need of being removed, and it would take a good deal of canopy out that may be able to stay.
Yeah, I know at least one of those is dead. It's on the,
Right on the property line?
The
Yeah, it was one
labels
of those
don't
that were on the
show on
building.
this one.
I've got a
through
photo.
that
we
way.
didn't go in there and just to knock them all down for the sake of knocking them all down.
No,
I mean,
you've done a
there's
good job
reason
of
that-
positioning the house, no doubt about it. And, you've saved those live oaks in the front, but I do feel like that the one that's there in the back that's indicated to be removed, I don't know that it's going to be a hindrance for any structure or is necessary to be removed.
Mr.
Talking about the
Mr.
green
Chairman,
back.
if I may,
Yes,
I
please.
think maybe to help facilitate that that comment is that at the time that the tree permit or the tree removal permit is submitted, that staff will go out and inspect all
Okay.
of the trees in order to ensure that, if any of the trees that are being proposed that can be saved, that we make sure to capture those and that they are
So-
saved.
And trees are very important to this whole town, and so
Absolutely.
I think there are some wonderful trees on this property, including some palm trees, believe it or not. I mean, I walk that property every day pretty much to go for a walk. And there's some beautiful trees back there that I'm glad that we're all saving trees and that we have some professionals within the town that are going to make sure that we're not just willy-nilly getting a chainsaw out.
Yeah, and Mr. Simpson, hopefully that kind of captures the intent of what you're looking for, and then when we go through that, we'll make sure both looking at the arbor's assessment and then
So we'll
doing
let-
an inspection
We'll
from
let them
staff
take
level as
care of
well.
that.
Yeah,
We're expecting you guys to do the right thing.
absolutely. Again, our intent is to save as many of the trees as possible.
Thank you. Thank you for that addition.
Sure thing.
Because they're shown on both.
All right. Where are you, Katie? I think you're on,
Item 6 is the material and dimensional information on the proposed service yard. I am service yard crazy today. It is not showing up in the elevations, however, it is showing on the site plan here as a 4x6 service yard, 4x4 posts, painted the same as the trim. Staff is just requesting that it be shown on the elevations as well so that we can see that on here and ensure that all of the utilities will be able to be contained within
where's
that.
the service yard?
It is at the rear of the house,
Okay.
showing here.
It's not drawn in, though.
It's not shown on the elevations, it's shown on the site plan, though. The next item is a railing detail, which includes the handrail extending from the top nose to the bottom nose of the stair. There is a handrail which is being shown, or there's a railing which is being shown, however, it does not extend to the bottom nose of the stair. That's something that is going to be a challenge with building safety when the plans get to them, so that's something we need to see on there. The pretty portion of it may stop there, should it be the applicant and the commission's decision, but the handrail itself would need to extend at least to the bottom nose of the stair.
For code.
Yeah.
The next item is that in order to meet the spacing requirements by the Unified Development Ordinance, the column spacing on the front elevation must be reconfigured to be spaced no further apart than they are tall on the porch. Staff would just like to note that when you take this application and compare it to the other application, the original application did have column spacing that met this code section, and when they went to change some of those details, that is something that they changed. Now, the porch could be reconfigured to be narrowed in order to meet this, or some other configuration. However, I just want to note that it is one of the items that was
Be double columns to reduce the distance to,
correct.
Raise the
So-
plate.
And it's center to center.
When you measure that calculation of the height, the width you said is center to center?
Yes.
It is.
And the height would be from the top of the deck or the porch surface to the bottom of the beam?
So it's the top of the column where it ends to the base here. So this is where I've measured the height here,
That'll make it really
and then the spacing is
cover that dormer.
here. So this is not the application we are currently reviewing. This is the other one. This is where the columns are shown on that one, which does meet the spacing requirement. They have proposed a different column configuration on this one in order to provide a little bit more difference within the,
Katie, it's also deceiving because there's not a beam shown on there. So that it's going to make it look even squattier.
correct. So these are, the columns on the front porch are approximately 8 feet 8 inches apart and 7 feet 8 inches tall. As currently shown, they will be slightly under 7 8 if that top beam is added there to the elevation, because I took it off the
Double column would
elevation.
work? Double column situation?
Very likely.
A double column could be proposed and potentially work, yes.
We'll resolve that with these other changes on the plans for you guys.
But we.
I thought he had it done the way it should be.
Whoever makes the motion has to know. Okay?
The next item is that a typical window detail showing the Muntin configuration would need to be provided for review, as well as a water table detail for the primary structure, which is the next item. And the last one is that there's T111, which is a plywood material listed in the soffit. And so that material would need to be revised to a permitted material, which could be a pressure-treated wood or a hardy material. So those are the items that I have for this application. I combined the last three because they are all fairly detail-oriented.
And going back to this, it looks like we're supposed to ask for the board commission comments and questions, and then we're going to be asking for the public comments after that. And then we have two folks that are going to be speaking for 3 minutes, correct?
That is the order of operations, yes, and we have 3 public comments. If there are 4, then we would
let's
need an
see,
extra
did I
paper.
miss
Yes.
one?
Nope, I think there are 3. There's 2.
There's
Just
2.
kidding.
I have Karen Hurst and Don Hurst, is that correct? Yes. So therefore, right now, we're in comments and questions from the board. Any further comments, questions on the board? And if not, you could step to the podium, state your name, press, and limiting it to 3 minutes, please.
That spot, I'm going to work on the computer, so you're going to talk to them.
Well, I'm Don Hurst, 5 Head of the Tide. My property borders the new property. I'm across the fence from you. Yeah. I was glad to hear the conversation about the trees. We were concerned about those, and glad to hear that the saving as many of those as possible. There are some wonderful old oaks that are there, and if you can save as many as possible, we would really appreciate it. I know most of them are water oaks, and those aren't as desirable as maybe a live oak or some of the other types, but they're still beautiful old trees. Possible. We've got a lot in our yard, and we'd like to see that remain. My other concern was in trying to read through the public notice that we got and looked through the minutes and the restrictions and things on the website. I may or may not have gotten some things correct, but if you would bear with me, I think that this is considered a village house. Is that correct?
Did exceed the footprint on the second story and would need to be required to be built up. The second floor has been reduced to be less than 70% of the story below.
So if that's the case, then the first floor footprint can only be 1,100 square feet, which means that would be less than
The conceptual application was submitted and
type 2.
an additional.
And like I said, the other concerns that we have, and the other owner of the home, which is adjacent to the 35 Meriwether, is well. And our concerns are obviously the size of the homes and closeness to the fence lines that we have, and two-story homes, and you're looking right into our backyard. The privacy is a concern. Size of the homes is also, like to address that.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Good timing, good timing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have Karen. And if you can step in, your full name, address.
My name is Karen Hurst. I live at 5 Head of the Tide. I need some clarification for the, and I know I'm not getting the numbers right, but 30 is on this side and 35 is on this side, if I'm understanding correctly with the, okay. 35, where is the front of the house facing? Oh, okay.
We haven't
Okay.
reviewed that one yet, so this
Okay, we
is,
won't, that's my question was on 35. And when you had one showing,
so I guess what
one
we
in
could
this
do
one,
is
I
bring
thought
you,
you were doing both of them.
if we could bring you back up then,
Be fine.
after we review 35.
Perfect, thank you.
How's that?
Which is the one that we have taken a look at here. And again, I apologize that I'm having so many challenges with my PowerPoint here tonight. 30 is, and I'll flip through it really quickly on the way there, the front with the hip roof, facing the cul-de-sac, closer to May River Road than to the river. This is the right elevation, which faces the blue house that is currently under construction, the rear elevation, which faces towards May River Road.
Big green fence, yeah.
Yes, towards May River Road, though. The left elevation, go backwards here, for lot
But
4.
what are we trying to accomplish now? I mean, it
Just-
seems like we've reviewed this
Yes,
already, so
I'm just making sure
trying to figure
your
out
elevations are correct here.
why we're re-reviewing.
So the left elevation faces the lift station, and the side with the stairs faces the house that's under construction. So that's for clarification on which direction that faces. Here, and then your
Okay. So we discussed all the staff recommendations, correct? We final staff remarks or applicant remarks?
Ask that it be noted, as it relates to the tree removal request, live oaks that, I believe are live oaks that are healthy on that rear property line.
Or just
Live
oaks?
or river
Yeah,
oaks,
live
whatever
or
they
river. I
are.
think we need to, I agree, but as Kevin said is, I guess I'm depending on the town of Bluffton being a tree-friendly community, and that, again, we're just not willy-nilly allowing tree doctors to come in there with their chainsaw and grind the thing up. That's, as I agree, there's some beautiful trees in there, and there's also some interesting palms in there. It's curious because some of the palms are quite nice, and it seems like it would be a shame to destroy those if you didn't have to.
If they're old, some of those can take a long time to grow.
Yeah, there's some old palm, so I think those, I don't know if that's some type of but Kevin, I don't know if that's something that you also can include, because there are some lovely old palms in there.
But you're talking about on a different lot, perhaps?
No, there's,
I know that there's big old palm trees on this lot.
well, not palm trees,
Not
but those,
palmetto necessarily.
yeah, not the palm trees, but the palm ferns or whatever they call them. I mean, just, anyway, there's some vegetation. I bought some palm
Native
vegetation.
vegetation.
Native palm vegetation, that's quite nice. Anyway, that's just a side note, and I think, okay. With that said, is there someone that's able to make a motion with the changes that we talked about, and then including, as Katie is so nice to put it in red, but then if you make the motion, make sure that you state if it could be approved by staff, or it has to come back to HPRC, or it has to come back to HPC with the changes.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
I make a motion to approve with conditions the application. Let's see, I'm out of practice. With the understanding that a tree removal permit is required, that additional architectural changes should be made to more represent diversity of architecture, specifically probably that gable treatment on either house, essentially. One of the houses has to be different. To provide a revised landscape plan with updated canopy coverage, to address the geometry of the windows on what we're calling the left side of the building, provide more diverse geometry in there, get some more that are taller, to add a horizontal muntin to the windows on the carriage house that only have a vertical muntin. We have determined that the front build-to line can be moved back in accordance with the needs of protecting the trees. And reconfigure the columns to be spaced no farther apart than they are tall, whether that's double columns or go back to the original is up to you. And then as written, with the addition of a tree removal at the rear of the lot, specifically the oaks at the rear of the lot, be considered at the time of tree removal permit review. Save as many trees as possible. Did I miss anything? Oh, yeah, as written, the T111 plywood. Yeah, I skipped over that and just said except as written.
Which numbers?
9, 10, 11. Typical window, we need a typical window detail. We need a water table detail. And replace the T111 plywood soffit material with a permitted material per the UDO.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just repeat the motion as I understood it to make sure my record is correct.
That's great, thank you.
Elaine has made a motion to approve the application with condition 1 per staff as written, 2 to provide additional changes specifically in the gabled end, removing the board and batten on one of the 2 structures, 3 to address the geometry of the windows on the left elevation, 4 to allow the deviation from the front build-to line in order to save the trees, to revise the landscape plan to per staff 6 and 7 as written, 8 to reconfigure the columns, whether it be to the original or to a double, 9 through 11 as written by staff, and then 12 to specifically address the trees during the tree removal permit process to save as much natural vegetation and trees as possible.
Yes. Oh, plus the height of the front door should be adjusted. Match the header height of the windows near them. Sorry, that was,
Mr. Chairman,
I'm usually more
heard a
eloquent
motion.
than that. That was a mix.
Want to speak to the
caught that?
material of the
Did you
front
catch
door?
that in the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I've captured 13 items in the motion. There needs to be a second before any discussion can happen.
I realize that, but I just wanted to make sure that that
The-
last item was captured in the motion.
The door height is captured as part of
Okay,
the
very good.
original motion.
That's excellent, thank you. Now I'm looking for a second,
I'll second it.
and now I'm looking for any discussions. Discussion on the motion? Therefore, I'm going to look for a vote on the motion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the motion passes as stated. Very good. Now we have one more item, and it's somewhat similar, except a change in elevation and setbacks, I understand, and that would be the 35 Merriweather.
Yeah, 35 minutes.
So we did 30, so now we're going to be looking at 35.
Yes. We're taking a brief pause only so that we don't miss any information, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to do the same.
I'm sorry.
Hey, we're going to
I
have
don't
a
want to
brief, how do you do a break? Can we do a break?
Take 4 seconds.
Take a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
A motion to make a 5-minute break, recess.
Motion to make 5-minute break?
1, 2, okay.
All in favor, aye? Hello, everyone. Could we,
Good luck. All right.
it's now 9:06. We need to
I believe it's
vote on extending our, is it what time is it?
Nine, you're
let's-
okay, you're still okay.
No, it's 9:30, we're good, so it's 9:30, it's not, yeah, so
You're
we're
still
still
okay.
good.
have everybody to get back
Attention.
to where they're going. We can have this discussion.
We're back in session. Katie, take the floor, please.
Okay, I'm going to go through it as quickly as possible without missing any information. This is a certificate of appropriateness to allow the construction of a new 1.5 single-family residential building of approximately 2,113 square feet and a carriage house of approximately 704 square feet located at 35 Merriweather. This is Lot 5 in the Land and Oaks development. It is also in the Historic District and Zone Neighborhood General HD. So on the site plan, you can see this is the lot that is across the street from the other one, May River Road at the middle top. And then going straight down is Thomas Hayward. Merriweather pops in and is a cul-de-sac. This is where the lot is shown in the neighborhood general. It does abut to the neighborhood conservation on its side. However, it's surrounded on the other sides by the neighborhood general. This is the configuration of the lot currently. So there are significantly fewer trees located on this lot than there is the lot that we just discussed. There are some utilities towards the front of the lot here. And this is a second view of that. So you can see the stockyard fence here is the side which is facing into Stock Farm. This is the site plan. You can see that the site plan actually does go off the page a bit. So the full lot is a deep triangle that runs all the way back to here. We are only seeing to approximately where my mouse cursor is on the site plan, which if it'll load, is here. So this comes in at the exact same angle and intersects with this line here to create the point down approximately where my mouse is now off the screen. The carriage house is located towards the back here with the stairs facing in towards Thomas Hayward Street, the opposite side of the carriage house facing towards the Stock Farm development. The primary structure is pushed towards the front of this lot as there are not trees to save on this lot as there are on the other lot. I think this is just, I've zoomed in a little further for you so that it is clearer and zoomed in once again. Please note that this, again, is not the edge of the lot. Here is that, the intersection where you can see it break on the, not seeing my
House.
Oh, okay, that's okay. So on the bottom side where you can see the property line takes a sharp turn south, or south on this page, but it's not actually south. You can see where the intersection is. That line moves towards the left. Here we go. So from here, this is the bend in the property line that you see on your site or your location map and your zoning map, but this line does not cut off here. It is a point that carries on at the same angle and intersects with this side property line.
What
So
is that property that's behind this? You can't get into it, so what is that? Going to be,
that's common space for the development.
For the community common?
Yes. And there's some OCRM setback that falls in that portion of it, which is not part of this lot. So if it is okay with you all, I'm going to leave it on this size screen so that I don't get trapped again, unless we need to zoom in. This is the first floor plan, so you can see the front porch. This one has a kind of duck in where you will not see a door on the side elevation. You will see a window instead with the door coming in here. So on the other set of plans, there's a mudroom that encloses this space and creates a second bump out. This one does not include that. The second floor is very similar to the floor on the first plan that we saw, which is 3030 Merriweather. And then you have the roof plan. You have your garage, which again has the storage towards the back, which is pushed away from the front of this building, along with the stairs that run along the side. You have your floor plan or roof plan and foundation plan, very similar to the other one. This is the front elevation, so this is the side that faces towards the circle. towards May River Road, but facing the circle here. This will be, if you walk out the front porch, you will look at 30. This elevation here is the right side elevation. This is the side that faces Stock Farm and the driveway. So you will walk down these stairs and turn, because it's side stairs, and go onto the driveway. The carriage house will be off your screen, but back towards this side of the house. This is the side of the plan that faces towards the common space at the back of the lot. It's the rear elevation. And then this is the left elevation of the structure, which faces towards Lot 6, which we have not seen yet. It is a vacant parcel. So towards Thomas Hayward, though. For your garage elevations, you have your right elevation, which faces the Stock Farm development. You have the front elevation, which faces towards the cul-de-sac. You have the rear elevation, which faces towards the cove/open space, and then beyond that, quite a ways, the cove, and the left elevation, which faces Lot 6, which is undeveloped at this time. Here we have the details. They are very similar to the details you are seeing on the other set of plans. And the tree removal landscape for this, I've made it big again. The tree that is being removed from the center is a cedar tree that is 11 inches in diameter at breast height. The other two locations that you're seeing, those are additive, not subtractive, so it is not tree removal, but tree additions of a 2.5-inch caliper live oak at the side closest to Thomas Hayward, and a dogwood closer to Stock Farm development. Here we have the landscape plan. So you see the driveway comes in kind of at a swoop, for lack of a better word. And again, this does not show the back of the lot, so we'll need to see that. However, this does show the lot here. So on the site plan, you are seeing to approximately here. Bit there so that you're just I make it bigger, so that's where approximately that site plan ends. So you know that there is this corner that is just undeveloped space back here as well. There is going to be public comment on this application, as well as the applicant being able to speak, but in order to run through them fairly quickly, since a lot of the comments are similar to that before, I'd like to go through the staff recommendations, if that's okay with the chair.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
The HPC considers the 8 review criteria found in 318.3 of the Unified Development Ordinance. They can approve with conditions, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Tonight, we find that this application would meet the regulations in that section if the following conditions were applied. The first is that additional architectural changes should be made for a more representative of the architectural diversity in the Old Town Bluffton Historic District. This is the same comment that I had on the other one. We've already discussed the gabled ends, the spindles on the porch, similar items like that. The next one is provide a revised landscape plan to show the updated canopy coverage calculations. Again, it goes off the rear of the property, as well as there are very few trees on this property at this time, so we'll need to see where those canopies actually lie. There may be some trees on neighboring properties that account for a small amount of canopy on this site. The next item is that the number of doors and window proportions should be reduced in order to provide a better proportional relationship between the elements. The next item is that the dimensional information and on the elevations, the service yard be shown. The next item is a railing detail, including that handrail. Then the window detail, showing the Muntin configuration, a water table detail for the primary structure, and the T111 from the soffit be removed. This one does have fewer conditions than the other one, because a lot of those other conditions were related to the tree removal, which is not taking place on this site, except for the 11-inch cedar, which is under the 14-inch threshold that requires a tree removal permit. I think I did it in one breath, so there should be a lot of information, but
Thank you very much.
again, these are the front elevations, which will never be seen at the same time. The right elevations never at the same time, left and rear. From Thomas Hayward, this is what you will be seeing. Lot 5 is this one here with the stripes going up and down. Lot 4, which we've already reviewed, are the stripes going sideways on the right-hand side here. This is from Stock Farm. So from Stock Farm, they will be seeing this is lot 5, which has the stripes going up and down and the stairs off to the side. You can see the little window here, which is different than, oops, the side elevation is the one that, you see the door with the steps going straight off on lot 4. This is lot 5, which has the lack of mudroom, door going into this bump out here, and then the stairs go down at a side angle instead of straight into the drive. And then because I know that I'm going to be addressing it during the public comment portion of it, I'm going to take a look at the site plan here to show where the corner, I have pulled up the Bluffton Explorer here. I'm lost, there we go. So the property we are looking at is this one here, highlighted. This is the 6 head of the tide, which has had questions about it. The carriage house location on this, and I can't actually draw on this, is approximately where my mouse is sitting in comparison to the structure. So the corner of the carriage house will align approximately with the interior corner here where their bump out takes place. So that's where the back of the carriage house is. Then there is approximately 60 feet between the carriage house and the primary structure on the site because it is a strangely deep lot, although it is not very wide. So the primary structure is placed all the way up here, and the front door will be about where the number 35 is. So again, on, oops, this is, I have PowerPoint now, 35. Here's your front porch with your front door, approximately 10 feet from the front property line here, and your right side with your 13 feet between the property line and the corner. This is that intersection that's showing. So this carriage house, this will align with the corner of the structure adjacent here. So the windows on the side of the carriage house that overlook this property will align with this right here, this space.
Front of the carriage house
It's
goes
the,
with the back
it will be
of the lot.
this elevation right here.
I think it's shifted back towards the rear more than,
Go to the other presentation, show us Head of the Tide again.
I'm seeing what you're saying. The front is aligned with the
right.
divot
right.
here, the
Right there.
intersection with the back property line.
Yeah. Farther up.
Oop, I've lost. Guys,
Almost.
so
So it's
this
back
is the
there.
intersection. I don't have, because of
can't
the way
draw that.
this map works on our website, it is not perfect, but it is going to be close here.
That drawing's not accurate either, because the
So
two lots are the
this
same.
is not accurate.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This line intersects about here. Because this is an overlay that is approximate. The survey is what we rely on. This is
Makes sense.
because we have hopes and dreams of at least giving us some information
Yeah,
on the
no,
screen
that's
that is
nice.
accessible.
No, that's,
It does look like this proposed house is actually probably smaller in footprint than the ones that are to the west of it, but probably similarly spaced. So I don't think anything's really close.
This is, so what we are able to see on that, this line that has been abandoned, which, let's see if I can zoom in this time. Nope. Oh, yes. So the original property line was here. Ah.
But I mean,
So-
we see the property, yeah.
I can see
The-
where, yeah.
Yeah.
The palm tree, that's the big dark star in the middle of the
Yes.
neighboring property, the line that is running next to it that has text going this way, that is what's showing up on Bluffton Explorer, which is the map that
gotcha.
is not accurate. This is the survey which is accurate, which shows that line coming in a few feet to allow for the lot next to it to become buildable because of that drainage easement that had to be added there. So
that makes sense.
I see.
So Bluffton Explorer, which is my tan map that I was showing you, this is the previous property line that has been shifted just a bit this way in order to allow 25 to have space where that drainage easement doesn't take up the entire back. But,
Okay.
so,
Went through all your recommendations.
I have, but I can go slower through anything that you have questions on.
Is there any discussion with the board? Discussion? No?
No, same window geometry comments and
Yeah, I see the same comment, I mean, same unfortunate mistake made, which will be rectified.
And this isn't on this, I'll just say this right now. I would caution, if ever, whoever was developing the lot, if it's you to the right as we're looking at the plan, that's obviously going to be the most critical as far as making sure that those elevations read differently, and it may require I think, a potential change to a roof line or something to differentiate them a little bit more.
Require.
But that's, again, not in this application, and I don't want to get in the
But I know that
weeds.
those are yours, and I.
We're rethinking that whole thing from start to bottom anyway, because it's clear.
Great, thank you.
valiant effort.
Yes.
These are my architectural skills, and this
That's
is why I
great.
work as a city planner instead of an architect. However,
Your squiggly mouse.
this is a very rough approximation of where those two houses will sit, or the two structures, on this lot, in association with the neighboring parcel based on this plan here.
Like now we're into a public comment, and I believe Karen, could you please step to the podium and state your name, your address
Yes.
for the record, please?
Again, my name is Karen Hurst. I live at 5 Head of the Tide. One of the things, well, actually two things. We do appreciate the fact that y'all are concerned about the trees because they've already cut down a lot of trees when they cleared that land out. So we lost a lot to begin with. So any trees that you could save, we're most grateful. But what we are looking at is the view from Hayward Street and the view that faces Stock Farm. You know what? Yes. The view from Hayward, I'm sorry to say, is ugly. I would not want to be driving down Hayward Street and look, because the view from Hayward Street, the view from Stock Farm looks better than the view from Hayward Street.
Those are those windows we asked him to change?
Yeah, in
That-
other
that
words,
side?
yeah.
Okay.
Because if the house could be like flipped, you know, instead of whatever's on this side go to this side, I think it would really make the house much more appealing when you drive into Landon Oaks and you're driving in. The first thing you're going to see is that side view that is not very attractive.
I think there are two more houses going in between.
There'll be other houses blocking.
Like in front of that.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully, I don't know where they're going to put that second one, but anyway, that's another story. But the idea is, well, if you understand what I'm saying, is when you get in, I know there's going to be a house, the house he's proposing to build right here, and I know there's going to be another house right here. But again, it may be blocking that from Hayward. But again, I think if I were living in this house right here, I still think that view is not an attractive view. That view with the smaller windows.
Oh, yeah.
Is going to be up against, it's still a privacy issue for us because they're just looking right over a fence into our yards. But again, that side of the house with the really prettier view is going to be looking at a fence. That's all they're going to see. To me, it would be better if that house could be flipped, possibly to where at least they would have a view out into the area, into Landon Oaks, into Hayward Street, as opposed to just looking at So that is, if I'm understanding the way that is oriented, that would be,
Appreciate it, thank you. That's all for public comments.
I actually had a similar thought to that when I saw it, but couldn't really rationalize why it would be flipped. I mean, according to you, yeah. But I don't know if you thought about mirroring the whole thing.
I think that what comes up is the placement, the shape of the front of the lots, because they're not square, and having the depth and where we can put
Driveway.
that's why they're the way they are.
It's where the driveway comes.
That next lot,
where
that
that
cove
triangle
thing,
is.
that really becomes into play on subsequent submittal.
And that house is going to be approximately the same setback,
Yes.
approximately.
Yeah.
Then the house would be covering the carriage house because you're not going to be able to flip that and make it work.
Yeah,
That's why the houses are
But the way, have a side
Well,
entry.
because of where the side doors are and things, he would have to mirror the entire relationship. Yeah. Both buildings.
Both buildings.
Well, I think that, the left elevation, and to the point made earlier in regards to the square windows, if the windows in the living room could be elongated and made larger.
Yeah, the windows in the living room is a fireplace in the middle of them. On one side of it is a built-ins. That's why it's not a 6-foot tall window.
Yes.
And then the other window is obviously there to offset it, which frankly, that one could go away.
Well, the
Then
window
you
in the
just
window
have
in the stairs, the windows in the master's bedroom, in the main floor bedroom,
those could
could
change
be
easily.
bigger, yeah.
But now you
Because-
can see why I've gotten them with the privacy and the open side houses. Because
That's,
those windows are looking into the driveway of the house next door.
that's still a larger easement than a lot of areas of Old Town, so
We'll make them the way you want them, that's fine.
and there's plenty, I haven't seen the actual vegetation plan, but there's plenty of room there for vegetation, just not necessarily on the driveway side.
Well, that wall is pretty stark.
Yeah.
On the left elevation, lot 5. It's a
I
pretty
get-
stark wall.
We'll fix that up when we get there.
But
See, you have to understand too, when we got the initial comments back, I think there was such a rush to try to get everything done to submit in time for this meeting. But I can see how Travis missed some of these obvious, front elevation of this house, he's missing one of the planter boxes.
we don't have that in we have to make comment of that if you're going to change something so that it's in the motion.
It'll be the same as the other motion.
The house that sits on this structure, on lot 6, which there's lot 6 and lot 1 here, this structure is likely going to be very close to either side of this because it's a fairly narrow lot. It's about 50 feet wide, if not just under, because it was an existing lot prior to the ordinance change, which required 50-foot wide lots. So this next lot is going to have challenges with getting all of its things in there and having a structure that's of approximate size to neighboring structures. It will not likely be able to be as large as this one here, but it may just barely squeeze past at that level.
That's because of that
But there will be a
invisible-
driveway down one side, and then the other side will be pressed fairly close to a property line. So those windows, they will be visible from the neighbor, however, unlikely visible as you drive into the development, except for the 2 right at the front.
Invisible line
as you
on the
curve.
right-hand side is actually an easement, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
The invisible line or however you want to, not.
No, that's just an
On the right,
abandoned-
on the right.
This one?
No, over,
The abandoned line, you mean?
the abandoned line. No, over one more, please, to the
That's
right.
elevation line, I
This?
think.
Next to service yard.
The service,
This?
no.
Service
You're,
yard?
you're missing everything. Okay, it says service yard, but see where the service is? That line there.
This?
Where, no, keep going to the right, to the other side.
That's the
No,
setback
to your
line.
left, to your left, to your left. No,
Lot
no,
six.
no. Go the other direction, please.
Towards lot 6.
Point to
Towards-
it on your screen.
That's the
Towards lot
5-foot
one.
setback line, Bruce.
Towards lot one. I could,
Oh, he's in the middle of the east, the
No,
east
you're way
property
off.
line of lot.
okay, lot
6.
one, there.
There.
That's the
an
setback
I call
line.
that an invisible line. No, go over one, more. There. Okay, move over just a smidge.
The property line.
Now, what is, yeah, to the property line. What is that area in there? Is that like an easement in there, or why is it
That's a
drawn
new
like that?
property line. So the development was adjusted. There was an exempt plat that went through that changed this property line to be here, and this property line to be here, to widen this lot here, to allow for it to have buildable space beyond that of which a
That's a pretty
cottage would
wide
fit.
lot. If-
It's this right here.
So wide.
Yep.
This from here to here is 43 feet,
Wider than the
43.43.
lot that you just plopped this other building in.
It is,
Not by much.
But
They're both
anyway.
50 feet.
however,
wide.
just to keep things on topic, we're tonight discussing lot 5.
Yes, I know. Okay, fine. Okay. So therefore, we're looking at to get out of here. We need a motion made. Who's the motion maker?
Doing it this
I'll make the motion this time.
If I could add one more thing.
Yes, thank you. One more comment, please.
That cedar, could we add a caveat that during the tree removal permit process, that cedar be viewed on the site plan? So that we can see, in regards to the driveway, where that cedar actually falls.
Oh, it's showing on the, I think it's showing on here, isn't it?
Somewhere, I apologize, I didn't see it
It was frozen off.
on the site plan.
Is it back on the back?
It looks like it may be able to fit in between the porch or that side of the living room and the driveway.
We can spot the tree in the field. However, so this pipe right here, you can see there's a spot. Can you see my mouse moving? That's the pipe. It's down and back, approximately equidistant here. On the site plan, you can
house.
see from the pipe, it is down and back, so it'd be right about here.
I think it would just help if we could see it placed on the site
Yes.
plan, because we can't necessarily say that those are to the same scale.
Yes. We can ask them to do that. I can add it to the letter.
All right, Mary.
Are you going to add that other verbiage in there? Lot 30?
This is the language you're discussing?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So, well, Katie's fixing that up. So when we go back and make these adjustments to the plans and stuff, do we need to get some input from you all too, or does Katie the one who has to
It
kind of?
depends on the motion, the way we make the motion. We have the ability to have Katie staff approval, or we have HPRC and staff approval, or to come back to the full commission.
So
So,
if it's approved with conditions, she verifies you've met the condition.
I guess what I'm getting at is if that's the case, is the door open for us to at least review maybe? Or is that like out of bounds?
It is.
The last one was staff, right?
The last application, you all approved it at staff review. If you'd like to review it with HPRC oversight, I'm happy to bring it back before you informally. Because the HPRC is not an approval body, I can bring it to you, even though it was staff approval at the last one, without HPRC oversight. If there are questions that are beyond what staff is comfortable with, I do bring it back to the HPRC for extra comment. If it's something like a tree removal permit, I am checking a box that has been done, which is typically why they would allow it to go that way. If it's something else that has bearing on the appearance, then I can definitely bring it back to HPRC if that's
it's
what the
complicated
commission.
or it could change something, we ask for it to come back first, staff.
Yeah.
But then, if it's a little more complicated and we want to make sure that it's being followed, it could come back to HPRC, because we meet once a week. Or if you're doing a substantial change, it has to come back to HPC, but we don't see any substantial changes
No, I don't
on
either.
this.
And I guess what I'm getting at is I've got, 3 more behind this, and it's just nice to kind of get it done to make sure that.
Well, your understanding goes through HPRC first.
Okay, that's good.
Can do it.
Faith in you.
Nervous.
Now, remember, when you make a motion, I'm just saying that sometimes what you could do is just say, per staff recommendations on such and such, and then say, but number blah is this, so it makes it.
I make the motion that we approve the application for 35 Meriwether Court with the following conditions. Is that right? 1 through by staff. The condition that the cedar tree on the site is included on the site plan for consideration during the tree removal permit process, and that at the rear of the lot be considered during the permit review process. And then, wasn't there a window? Is that what you're doing now?
If we can continue a motion before discussion, and
I just wanna see
What
the
has-
wording.
We
When
cannot
it's in
dis-
motion, we can't really
Looking
help
for
you.
words.
I just wanted to get the wording right on the window part.
We really can't help you when it's in motion. It's like you're in your own little bubble. So when you start making a motion, you become bubbled. And then,
I was just waiting. I wouldn't,
no, I know, but
Discussing.
interesting, so then,
but we are now.
but we make the motion, then we have to second it, and then we could get into discussion.
that and then finally that the window geometry on the left side be reconsidered to elongate and reviewed by HPRC.
I second.
Second the motion?
I second the motion.
Very good. And do we have any further discussions? No further discussions. It's for a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed as stated. Thank you.
We have no discussion items before you tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna, there is an
Except-
oak in the back of the
Oh,
lot.
good.
We have no discussions items, so therefore I'm looking for
Motion to adjourn.
motion, and now I'm looking for a second.
I second.
And I'm looking for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.